Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Say Report on this Christmas week. I'm your host, Devin Decker. Joining me, host companion Sejan Sarowick. Sejan, why don't you say hello to everybody? He beat
Merry
me to
Christmas.
it. Merry Christmas. And it's a special. We have our very own quizmaster, Will Fournier. Willie, what's going on, man?
Good evening, good morning, good afternoon, and whatever time of day it is, hello. It's great to be back on the Say Report. I'm ready for another dose of Christmas movie trivia.
Oh,
Yeah,
good. I'm
Christmas.
happy. I'm so happy it's Christmas movie trivia because I'm like, how do I prepare? And I almost read the Bible and the Nativity story.
But then I thought, this is trash.
They may come up. They may come up.
Oh.
That's because there's going to be
they
a
may
question
not.
about the star.
No, it's which Mel Gibson movie am I considering a Christmas film because Jesus is involved?
Jesus.
The Road Warrior.
That's not. No, luckily that's not a question. It's okay.
It's the Passion of the Christ?
It
Final
was
answer.
I'm trying to find a
not
pencil for our quiz, and every pencil I
Keep going.
grab is just not sharpened.
All right. So the Say Report, we're a show about
Comment on
everything.
piety.
It's a Christmas miracle. I found a
Yay.
sharpened pencil.
Excellent. We talk about stuff, but, you know, whenever Will's available, because he's in Australia, right? So it's hard to make it work. He likes to give a quiz. So there'll be a proper episode, you know, once the quiz is over. But we wanted to have some fun for Christmas. And Will, you're now in charge.
All right, so we're doing 12 questions today, one for each of the 12 days of Christmas.
Oh.
That's appropriate.
It's based around a random selection of movie trivia that I was able to source. Some will be easy, some may confuse you. And that's all part of the Say Report. Yeah.
Anybody that's ever listened to you do one of these bits before, man, they know how confused I can get. Don't worry.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I still have the photo here of your last answer sheet.
Was that Brendan Fraser?
Yeah, it was Brendan Fraser. Yeah.
It was the last one in May. And it's just beautiful selection of your scribblings.
That was a difficult quiz, by all accounts, as memory serves.
It
Yes.
is. It's written all over. I'm looking at it right now. It's great. Like,
Is it my manifesto for murder? Is like
You used the Sharpie
it's
on
a-
napkins, I think.
yes, that is what I'm looking at here. It is like the scrawlings of a madman about Brendan Fraser.
oh man.
And that's all I can ask from you guys is more of that, please.
We will do
I'm
our
ready.
best.
And All right, we're going to roll straight in with question number one. It's for 2 points. So, a list of the top 10 highest grossing Christmas movies of all time feature two movies and their sequels in the top 10. Name the two movie franchises.
So it has to be
Are
a
you-
Christmas franchise, right?
That's one would
Yeah.
imagine if it's the top Christmas movies of all time.
Top 10 highest grossing Christmas movies of all time. Two movies and their sequels in the top 10.
I know one.
I think I got one for sure, and I'm guessing on the other, but it's a guess I'm willing to stand by. All right, I'm good. I'm feeling confident on this quiz, guys.
Yeah, well, it's the first
Okay.
question. It's supposed to lull you into a false sense of security.
Stop it.
I'm getting in your cabeza, Sejan.
Oh, man.
He's all up in you right now.
Gross.
Hey, that was 2 points available. To the next question, just for 1 point now. What was the first name of the character played by Chevy Chase in National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation? I mean, I may offer a bonus point on this quiz, on this question specifically, if you can also give me his nickname.
Oh, man, I love that. That's
Oh.
really more of a vacation question.
Yeah, but it comes up, I'm sure.
Oh, it does. I know it.
Oh, yeah, I would be weird if you didn't.
That makes me
Speaking of you,
reassess
you
what
were-
I'm going to write as the answer to the first question, though.
Oh, you don't think I'd name drop the answer in the second question? You think I'd be that guy?
I don't know. Cousin Eddie's Island Vacation exists. And I can't imagine it didn't make $1,000 billion. First movie to make $1 trillion.
Official. I mean, you heard it here first, guys. First movie ever.
Yeah, sorry, my mind went completely blank when you brought up Cousin Eddie's Christmas Vacation. I went into like a fugue state. Sorry.
That's fine. I was like, oh god, I think it did it. I think I killed him.
I would say either you're already lost and confused, or you were drifting away.
Yeah, no, I was just thinking of my memories of that movie and that island vacation we had.
And the fact that it's the only time an Audrey reprises her role. Which is weird, right? And it's not even Christmas Vacation Audrey. It's Vegas Vacation Audrey.
And that's why that movie made $1 trillion.
Yes. Learn from this.
Have a same character, but not the same character. Anyway.
Question
Hey,
three.
how about question 3?
I love
See
it.
what happens. Name either... so there are 2 Christmas movies with the word Christmas in the title, starring Tim Allen. Name either of the 2 movies.
Wait.
Okay. We just have to name either or both?
Just name one of them.
Okay.
All good. Pick your favorite.
Wait a minute. They're movies with Tim Allen that have Christmas in the title?
Yes.
Yes.
And I can definitely
There's
think
two.
of one. I just cannot think of a second one, which is a shame because I feel like I'm going to kick myself when I hear the second one. But I know that
I
first.
got it. Thank you. Ha I don't know what the second one is. Maybe we each got one and it'll be our own gift of the Magi.
That would
Yeah.
be a beautiful.
Oh, but I just sold my Tim Allen.
But I just sold my copy of a Tim Allen movie with Christmas in the title.
He's done many Christmas movies, but, few
Weirdly.
Christmas movies.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's done a lot of Christmas movies for a guy whose career is essentially
I think I just figured out the
That's
second
all you
one.
need.
Yeah, I figured out the second answer to the first question too, CJ.
No. I had that to begin with, but I think I just figured out the second movie.
Oh, the second one.
number
Okay,
3.
gotcha. Yeah, I was lost. I was so lost on question 1.
I'm glad you got.
Oh God, continue, please.
Question 4, I guess, is where we're at. Multiple choice.
Oh,
Which Batman movie is considered a Christmas movie? Batman Returns, Batman Forever, or Batman and Robin?
I know that Batman and Robin is the gift that keeps on giving, but is it a Christmas movie?
I enjoy the silence. I mean, I know dead air is a bad thing in podcasting, but I really enjoy the silence when you guys are definitely thinking.
Yeah, Will, because you're asking these questions, and I am fucking determined to do well on this quiz.
Yeah,
I'm sick of being the guy that does not do well on the quiz.
And it's
Unlike
Christmas.
every quiz before.
Yes.
Christmas is like the one topic you know more about than me.
Look, I'm trying real hard not to jinx things. You guys are making it really difficult by giving me all these opportunities. I see what you're doing, you tricksy bastards, but I've got this. I'm winning this one.
You have it forever.
Right.
You've been kissed by a rose on the gray. Did you know? Oh my God, this is a great question. I just need you to know that.
Do you know how crazy it is to be that Kiss from a Rose is not from the one with Poison Ivy?
Dude, it's crazy. Everything about that is crazy. Did you know that when it snows, and it's not the one with Mr. Freeze?
Yeah.
So, like, all the lyrics are great for other films.
For a film
that didn't even exist yet.
Yeah, Seal was always ahead of his time.
You know what I bet? I bet the people who wrote Batman and Robin listened to that song and were like, oh, this could be a great Batman movie.
That would explain a lot about Batman and Robin.
It would. If all of their ideas came from Seal,
Yeah.
it would explain a lot.
That'd be crazy.
Remember that part in the lyrics where he sings about nipples on the batsuit?
And did you know that when it snows, those bad suit nipples become so hard you can cut through ice? Baby!
Yeah.
I could make an argument
mean,
for all three of them being Christmas movies. I hate you. Because there can only be one answer that's correct.
You can have your. I mean, when it comes to answers, you can have your own internal argument. And I'm happy to listen to arguments, but ultimately there is one answer.
Are you saying you're not going to take shit? You're just like...
No, he's
happy
saying that
to-
he'll let us throw shit, but he's not going to stand for it.
Yeah, we'll do that.
That sounded good. I liked it.
Anyway, I believe question 5 is next.
Yes.
Yes. A nice easy one to keep Seaton's happy confidence going. What instrument does Liam Neeson's stepson play in Love Actually?
Man.
That's actually not an easy one for me.
Come on!
Oh, man.
All you
would
gotta
be
think
like
of
a
is
slam
All I Want
dunk
for
of it.
Christmas Is You. And no extra points for saying that it's Thomas Brody Sangster playing the role, right?
No, sorry, no extra points for that.
I just forgot his name yesterday, and it just came flooding back to me. And now it's recorded, so if I ever get lost, I can just go back to this episode of the Say Report.
You will always have this moment.
Halfway point. Let's do it, boys.
This is
All right,
the
question
hump question.
number 6. Which was released first?
Oh, Jesus.
The Muppet Christmas Carol or the Mickey Mouse version of A Christmas Carol?
I guess just for fun, what was the first televised version of A Christmas Carol?
Mary
Will
Tyler
I give
Moore.
away the answer here? Or?
No, it doesn't give away the answer at all. It's Mr. Magoo.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
But that's
Wow.
weird because Mr. Magoo is not like Scrooge-like. He's just like bumbling.
And
Is
yet
I
he
imagine he's
plays
Scrooge-like.
Scrooge in it. Mr. Magoo's Christmas Carol is awesome because it feels like the Mr. Magoo people doing a presentation of A Christmas Carol.
Okay.
But it's weird to see Magoo, and like the whole like I can't see thing like just doesn't come up. They're just like who
So
do
he's not
people
Mr.
like?
Magoo?
No, he looks like Mr. Magoo.
Yeah, but if you take away the whole, again, bumbling act of blindness, like that's not it's distinctly not Mr. Magoo.
It's disappointing.
Well, yeah,
I'm
that
like,
was a pretty key character trait.
I'm thinking on it now. The whole scene where like, what's that? And it's Marley's ghost. Like him not being able to see that'd be hilarious.
Oh, my goodness. Yeah.
Just having like no idea what's going on. Like, oh, we'll show you what you could be, but I can't see it anyway.
Spirit, tell me, what am I supposed to be looking at?
Yeah,
It's your grave. It's your grave. I'm not supposed to talk, Magoo.
like that I'd watch. Just the spirit getting more and more angry.
Yeah, that's not what it is.
It's like making a movie with Bugs Bunny and being like, except he's not a bunny and he doesn't eat carrots. Also, he doesn't be smart with anybody. He's very kind to everyone. It's like, well, what the fuck?
That sounds great. So it's a Bugs Bunny movie,
That was the comparison.
but he's not a rabbit. It's all live action. No Looney Tunes here.
Oh, man.
No, the exact opposite of everything Bug stands for.
I was trying to think of like who in like actual media is like the anti Bugs Bunny, and I can't think of it. I can't think of anybody.
William Hurt.
You
The
know,
least animated thing on the planet.
William Hurt in The Big Chill.
Yeah.
What do you
Bam.
think of like least least animation, Keanu's got to be up there in certain moments.
Yeah, but he's never kind. He's always smart with people.
True. Neo he was just the one, I guess.
Neo was a bit of a whiner, to be entirely honest.
Yeah. He got slightly better, but not great.
I know Kung Fu. Do you think it's really going to happen that Matrix 4 and John Wick 4 release on the same day?
I don't think they'll allow that to happen. I mean, from what I understand, he's not going to be the lead in Matrix 4, right? Like, it's going to be like a very much passing of the baton story. Am I wrong about that? Maybe that's just something I've made up.
Well, yeah, I know he's going to be in the film, but not as...
Right. I'm assuming somebody like Jaden Smith or somebody is going to be like
Stop
the big
saying Jaden Smith. He's not going to be. It's going to be Justin Long. We already established this.
I'd watch Justin Long learn Kung Fu.
I mean, it's Justin Long is the best candidate to be the next Keanu Reeves.
Can we finally get that team up again of him and Jonah Hill, like the spiritual successor to Accepted is Matrix 4?
I think it's time for question 7.
Oh, it's question 7.
I derailed with my Magoo talk.
You did. So you all got question 6 right. Probably, Sejan. Cool. Question 7. Little bit of a... Well, it's not hard. It's just weirdly worded. So bear with me.
You wrote the question, right?
Well, yeah, wrote, plagiarized, whatever.
Oh, okay, cool.
In 2015, Empire Film Magazine readers voted Die Hard as the best Christmas movie of all time. I mean, obviously. Name 3 movies that star the following actors that also made the list.
Jesus.
So 3 individual films, and the actors are Eddie Murphy, Mel Gibson, and Robert De Niro. They have individually appeared in 3 individual films, which were made the top 10 best Christmas movies of all time.
Okay.
Okay. The only one I have no idea on is De Niro.
So we have to wait. I'm so sorry. You're right. This question has completely confuddled me. Start again for the top.
Excellent. Okay, so Empire Magazine in 2015, readers voted Die Hard the best movie of all time.
Got it.
Christmas movie.
There are Christmas movie. Oh, no, it's just the best movie of all time. It's fine. Name 3 movies that star the following actors. So 3 different movies, one actor in each movie.
Okay.
That were also on the list of best Christmas movie of all time. And that is Eddie Murphy, Mel Gibson, and Robert De Niro.
De Niro?
So do we have to name 3 movies here?
So yeah, there's a movie that Eddie Murphy was in that is on the list. A movie Mel Gibson was in that is on the list. And a movie...
In or had to do it?
In. And then there's a movie that De Niro was in that made the list. I think that's what he said. Yeah, okay.
Okay.
And I would like you to name all 3 of them.
No idea about Robert De Niro.
What's the one he made with Al Pacino that was not The Irishman?
Are you talking about The Godfather Part 2?
No. That was his big, after Heat, everybody was like, they should be back in a movie together. After Heat, it was from 2006, and it ended up being terrible. And him and Pacino are partners, and then you find out at the end that Pacino's been a dirty cop the whole time, and I can't remember the name of it. I thought that one took place at Christmas.
15 Minutes? Are you thinking about 15 Minutes?
Oh, maybe. It might be that one.
It sounds good.
I'd watch that movie. It sounds very good.
Well, yeah, if you want to write something, I'm sure they'd be on board.
Yeah, right? They just did The Irishman.
And that got, that was long. So.
That was long?
It was good as on Netflix. I could watch it in pieces, but...
Yeah, this one was I think I crashed and burned on this one in a way that I haven't on any of the other questions yet.
I really just I'm trying to think of a De Niro movie that could fit the mold, and I just...
Let me see. Okay. So I don't even know if I'm right, but let me ask this question. Is it possible that this movie is in a series of movies Will?
It's possible, but I wouldn't.
Okay.
I don't.
Are you
Okay.
asking if it's a Meet the Parents film, CJ?
I did look. I'm not saying anything out there about it, but I'm sorry. The more
I will
important
say
question
no,
was,
it is
if
not.
it isn't a series, are we going to catch shit if we don't get the exact right title? Yeah, probably. Right. Right. Yeah.
Yes. I mean, would you like to know some other people who were in this film with him?
I am
No.
fine.
I
I'm
think we
fine
should
with my
just
guess.
stand
I
on
am-
where we are.
Yeah,
I like
Okay.
I like where it's at. Unless it's Joe Pesci, because that's just related to something we're going to be talking about later on the Say Report.
I can say Joe Pesci did not star in this film with De Niro.
Okay,
It's a shame.
that's a damn shame.
Sorry.
I'm
Anyway,
ready. I got mine
I'm
down.
good to
Question
go.
8. Question 8? Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Question 8. In a 2007 Christmas movie, Vince Vaughn plays Santa Claus's brother. What was his first name and title of the movie?
CJ and I saw that in theaters together twice.
So it should be fine then.
This should be a gimme.
All I remember is all Kevin Spacey wanted was that Superman cape. The only thing I remember about that movie.
Jeez, I remember Beast of Burden and him teaching John Michael Higgins to dance so he could get Elizabeth Banks.
Man, I gotta watch this movie again.
God.
Yeah, who plays the tall elf?
Who
Isn't that
plays
really
the
weird?
tall elf?
Oh, well.
Well, I think she's Santa's little helper. She's not an
Right,
elf.
she's
She's
not an
Santa's
elf.
little helper.
It's a weird movie.
It is a weird that we
Yeah.
saw in theaters twice.
Well, yes, the fact you went back for a second round.
I saw it 3 times. Because my mother wanted to see it, and I'm like, yeah, I'll go see that again. Oh man!
I mean, hey, question 9. How about that?
Let's do it.
Sounds great.
Okay. Question 9. What type of toy are Schwarzenegger and Sinbad fighting over in Jingle All the Way?
Oh, come on. Okay, I think I know it, but I'm mad at myself for not remembering the exact name of it.
Oh, your wife's cookies are so moist. When I started eating them, I just couldn't stop eating your wife's cookies. And it's Tom Hanks' wife who plays his wife.
Is it really?
Yeah, it's Rita Wilson. I think that's her name, right? I'm pretty sure that, Schwarzenegger's wife is played by Tom Hanks' wife. Let's also shout out, pour one out for Phil Hartman, because he is good in that movie.
Ah, yeah, I forgot that he's in that
He's the one who does the whole your wife's cookies is so moist.
Yeah, he's the wife cookie.
Man.
I mean, and also a great movie. Schwarzenegger probably can't say the name of this, what they're fighting over, so you guys can just write down some letters.
Yeah, all I wrote down was rah, 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 rah.
Yeah, that's what they were looking for.
There
Hold
was
on.
Jamie. Jamie. There's that Christmas. There's that Santa Claus fight. Man, I'm remembering a lot of good Christmas movies. And
Yeah, that's you know.
yeah,
That movie is
Chronicles of
actually superbly structured too. Like Jingle All the Way is like the promises it makes early on and then pays off later in that movie. The catharsis of that film is phenomenal.
it's a very good movie. It's a very good film.
There's
Jamie.
no Chekhov's gun anywhere in that movie.
Yeah.
Everything you see is a Chekhov's gun. Everything.
Everything. 10? Is that what we got to?
Yeah,
Yes. Number 10.
Good. Okay, what is the name of the man who wrote the screenplays for Home Alone, National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation, and the remake of Miracle on 34th Street? What are you enjoying there? What are you enjoying here?
If I remember correctly, I know who this gentleman is, and he must have sold his soul to the devil for Home Alone.
That's clever.
Did he do?
That's a clever reference to Dogma, which in itself has clever references to this man, if it's the man.
Yeah.
If it's the man.
Oh, jeez. And I'm laughing because I almost wrote down Christopher Columbus.
No.
And I'm like, no, he directed that movie.
He directed
you
it. Yeah.
moron.
He is also a very, very good director.
He did something recently that was really. I don't remember. Because I was like, oh, he did this movie, and I'm like, no, he did do that. What is this? What's the last movie that he directed? Can someone look that up?
Chris Columbus?
Yeah.
Yeah, I can very easily look that up.
Look it up. Because I know he did the first Harry Potter, but then he definitely didn't do the Fantastic Beasts movies. Also, I didn't like the first one. So, he did something that was really good. I was impressed with it.
I forgot that he's a writer as well.
Yeah, that's... yeah.
Pixels. I think you're thinking of Pixels.
Pixels is probably what I'm thinking of.
It's not. It cannot possibly be what you're thinking of. Hold on 1 second. Christmas Chronicles. Are you thinking of Christmas Chronicles?
It's Christmas Chronicles. Yeah. I didn't really like Christmas Chronicles, but I was impressed that he went back to the Christmas well.
I like that. And Christmas Chronicles 2 is coming out 2020.
It's 2020, right?
Filming now.
Exciting. But like Christmas 2020, right? Like it's not like I'm going to get to watch Christmas Chronicles in like January.
No. Netflix is probably going to do that thing where they release it at like Thanksgiving so that you've got like a month of watching it.
Or a month of complaining about it. If you're Devin Decker.
Y'all see that Christmas Prince or Christmas Night? Christmas Night is real good.
I don't know. I still got to watch Noel.
Noel is fun.
All right.
I'm ready.
I'm ready for 11.
11.
Piper's piping.
That is, yeah. I never know which ones come in the order when you get to the top. Everyone's just excited about 5 gold rings. Well, that's not the question. It's just a comment. In which Hugh Grant movie does he play a character whose father wrote the song Santa's Super Sleigh?
Damn it. I have to go with I'm going with my first answer on that.
I had the exact same response, man. There was a moment where I was just like, oh, well, probably this one, right? And then started doubting myself, but I'm not doing that on this one. I'm not doubting myself this time.
Trust your instinct on Christmas.
That's going to be the Say Report Christmas Carol. Trust your instincts this Christmas. If it's a rectangle box, it's probably gonna be closed. I don't have more.
Cool.
I don't know.
If you were a puppy, well, that ain't gonna be.
Because there's no holes in that box for that puppy to breathe. You're gonna get socks this Christmas. And try not to be disappointed when you open them. Socks are an important part of every outfit. And nobody ever thinks about buying them.
I like our blues album, our Christmas blues album.
Apart from the lack of harmonica. I think that.
That's Siegen's job. That's why it stopped.
Okay.
We'll add it in post.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Always.
I'm ready for 12. Otherwise, I'll change my answer to 11.
Don't do that. You were right.
You don't know that.
I believe in you because it's Christmas.
No.
Trust your instincts.
Not enough.
I mean, I didn't believe that you believed in me. I'm going to be honest with you.
Was it the emotion in my voice that led you astray?
It was the lack of emotion.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, whatever.
All right.
All right.
The final question. Question 12. the multiple choice question to finish off. Which musical is set around Christmas time? Cats, Fame, or Rent?
Well, now wait a minute.
Okay.
Well, now wait a minute. But there's there's an inherent flaw in those answers. But I think they're right. All right. Well, I'll do it.
It was a good monologue.
That was good. I was really.
I want to know what you got to the end of it.
We'll talk about it when we talk about the answers.
I was with you all the way. Yeah.
We'll get into it.
Jingling all the
all
way.
All right. Do we have answers for all 12 questions?
Yes.
All right. I do.
Excellent. I have tie breaks in case you guys draw. Don't worry.
Oh. We won't, but I'm glad we're prepared.
Just in case you don't or you do. All right. Well, we should do some answers, and you guys can. I'll trust you to mark yourselves.
Okay.
Yeah. Should we change papers, Sejan?
Could you maybe swap papers at the table nearby, and then we'll.
Yeah. Give me just a couple of hours.
Yeah. Just get in it. Just let me know when you're there.
I told you to send it overnight. It was cheaper with the Super Saver, Morty. Oh, I never realized that Morty is Jerry Seinfeld's father's name, and Jerry is Morty Smith's father's name. You think that's a reference they meant to do in Rick and Morty? They had to have, right? It has to be a Seinfeld reference.
I find with Rick and Morty that it's best to just assume that, yes, they were that smart.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, they did research, and they did it.
Come on, I want to find out if I'm right. Yeah, let's do it.
What do we have written down?
Okay, so
you can go ahead, Sejan.
All right, so my first one was the Santa Claus franchise. That was my first answer. And then I had a toss-up on the second answer, but I settled on the vacation films. But I was thinking something else.
Well, my first answer was Home Alone.
Nice.
And then I settled on the Santa Claus.
My other answer, this one won't count even if it's right, but I do want it out there before you say it, is I did say Die Hard. But anyway, go ahead.
Devin gets 2 points. It is Home Alone and the Santa Claus.
Ah, okay. But I got the one
Santa
point. Claus, right?
Yes, right. You do get one for that. So 2-1 so far. If you could keep your own scores, I don't have a pen.
I like that we came here with pen and paper ready. Well, I came with pen and paper ready. Sejan had to find a sharpened pencil. And yet, the quiz master...
I'm loading it now.
You are not going to be happy with your performance review this year, William.
It's Christmas.
Invited back for anything. Yeah, I've already checked out. I've had a Christmas party and stuff.
That's true.
All right, question 2. What do we got?
Clark W. Griswold, a.k.a. Sparky.
So I got Clark W. Griswold. I do not have I had Clarky as the nickname, but now that you said Sparky, I think I recognize that.
I mean, Clarky it rhymes, but it's incorrect.
Yeah, but I did get Clark.
Yeah, 2 for Devin, 1 for Eugene.
I love that his nickname is Sparky. I don't know why it's that, but it's that from the beginning.
No, I don't remember it being explained at any point.
Yeah.
I mean, I've not watched it in a while, but there's not a point where I was like, oh, it's definitely that. Nope, there's no reason in my head. Just is that. Just nope. All right, question 3.
Yeah.
Tim Allen. Go first.
So, Christmas with the Cranks is the first one that I wrote.
I have Christmas with the Cranks.
And then Santa Claus 3 or Santa Claus 2, the Christmas Claus, right? Isn't that one of them?
No, it's the Santa Claus 2 is the Mrs. Claus. And then the third one is the Escape Claus.
The Escape Claus, but there's no Christmas Claus. But anyway, I had Christmas with the Cranks.
Yeah, I have that as well.
You do both get the Christmas Cranks?
Yeah.
Any suggestions for the second one?
No, that's the reason why we only got the one.
Well, I thought you might have thought of it as you were going along. No, it is El Camino Christmas.
Oh, that's
El Camino Christmas.
I forgot he was in that. That's a Netflix original around here, so...
You should know.
So nobody saw it, is what I'm getting at.
Okay, more that than anything else. You know him, Dax Shepard, all the Other famous
I
people.
kind of want to watch it. That sounds really good.
It's about a robbery, right? Like it's like a
heist?
standoff between cops. No, it's not a heist. It's a standoff film between like cops and these robbers like holding hostages, if I remember correctly.
According to the thing, Eric comes to El Camino looking for his unknown dad. He's harassed, hit, and jailed by a drunk local cop who later shoots a liquor store mart with Eric and 4 people stuck inside.
Yeah.
Damn, that sounds pretty ingenious. I want to watch that movie.
Yeah, you got Vincent D'Onofrio's in there.
Oh, Vincent D'Onofrio, he's so good.
I mean, other.
I want to talk about Batman.
I want to talk about Batman too.
All right, let's talk about Batman. You can argue which one you think is right.
It's funny that you say Batman too, Devin.
Yes, because it's
Batman
Returns. Yes.
There's straight up Christmas in it.
Yes, that's the whole point of it. But like Batman Forever, think about the fact it's Riddler and Two-Face, red and green, and you got Kiss from a Rose, and you have Val Kilmer, who is known for Christmas movies, aka Kiss Kiss Bang Bang.
All of this is shaky, to say the least.
And Batman and Robin, it begins and ends with the fact that the year without a Santa Claus is shown in the movie.
Oh, that I could give you. Telling me Batman and Robin's a Christmas movie, I can definitely back. Batman Forever is definitely not. But no, Batman Returns is definitely the answer. Hey, quick housekeeping question. So these have all been 1 point so far, right? Like.
The first one was 2 points.
Well, if you got them both, right? Yeah.
If you got them both, yes.
Yeah, you have 4 points, Siege into my 6.
That's what I thought. Okay.
Yeah, that is what I got too. So we move on to question 5.
So I have no idea what the answer is to this one, but I said synthesizer because whenever I think about the music in that movie, all I can think of is synth.
It's drums. I don't want a lot for Christmas.
Because rhythm is life, written across his blackboard in his bedroom door.
He has a bunch of stuff written on that.
Ringo being the best. Ringo Rules is one of them as well.
I said
I only watched it last week, so I remember this. Yeah, I said no. All right, we are rolling. Or Siege, are you doing as well as you thought? Or
about as well as I thought I was going to do so far. I've got a majority of them right, but I'm ready for number 6, though.
All right, let's go straight for it then.
So it's definitely Mickey Mouse's Christmas Carol, and it's by Mickey Mouse. A lot.
By a long time.
83 and 92.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
I like Goofy as Marley. I'm going to say it.
Goofy as Marley's pretty good. The interesting thing about it is how much they just completely like bowl over with Christmas Present and Christmas Past. Like you're in the middle of Christmas Present, and then all of a sudden, like, nope, they don't do any of the Nephew Fred stuff with Donald, with them like doing the what do you call a game? The charades game or 20 questions game, I guess.
Yeah.
They just eliminate so much of the back half of that story to make it 40 minutes long.
I also like that the Giant is present. I think that's one of my favorite like castings.
Giant as present is pretty good. Jiminy Cricket as past
is fantastic. And even better, like the DuckTales that, Jiminy Cricket was past present. That whole thing was really, really good.
Yeah.
It's also weird that it's Mickey Mouse's Christmas story, but it's Scrooge McDuck. Like,
also, shout out to Cat Pete as Pete the Cat as Ghost of Christmas Future, who does speak. It's one of the rare times that Christmas Future does get to speak in that story.
Yeah, awesome. Now 7, where I got at least 2 of them right.
I don't know if I got 2 of them.
You don't think you're doing well. All right, then let's go with start with Eddie Murphy.
Trading Places.
Trading Places. Yeah.
Yes, in the Trading Places. Mr. Gibson.
Lethal Weapon.
Daddy's Home 2. It's probably Lethal Weapon.
It's Lethal Weapon.
It's a shame. All right.
Daddy's Home 1 is also. Oh no, he's not in that one.
No, he's not.
The list was written in 2015, so.
Well, I didn't know that part. But
he
anyway.
did say that. He told us that at the beginning.
Well, I didn't listen to that part.
And the third one was a movie I had to do some research into. It's from 1985. The 1985 De Niro film, Brazil.
Oh! Of course. I don't think of that as Christmas. Really? Okay. All right.
But that's sort of the point of the list,
by readers of
CJ.
Empire magazine.
It really feels like that's the thing. Because, like, Lethal Weapon takes place at Christmas, but is it a Christmas movie? Trading Places, ditto. I mean, there's a whole scene where Lewis is dressed as Santa Claus.
I would say that there is something Christmassy about it in talking about class and like that sort of stuff. I think.
Yeah, but then it also extends through to New Year's because that's where like the orange juice futures become an issue.
Oh, that's true.
Like,
yeah.
All right, cool. That's my first miss.
I mean, it's readers of Empire doing what they do best. All right, go ahead. Are we on to 9, maybe? Or 8?
Number 8.
8. Yes, 8.
Should be the gimme.
Fred Claus.
Fred Claus. Yeah. If you saw it twice, it would be weird if you didn't get that right.
Paul Giamatti as Santa Claus. Before he became the bad manager in every biopic. That's good. But I was trying to think of a Giamatti character. I was like, no, there's got to be one where no, not that one. No, not that one. Yeah, he's became a jerk. I'm sure he's still very nice in person, though.
Yeah, he ruined sales of Merlot wine across the U.S. after Sideways.
I believe
his character refuses to drink it, and I think it's something like by 30% sales dropped year on year.
Wow.
After that movie.
That's incredible. Oh my god.
It's like a ridiculous amount, like just because his character refuses to drink it, and everyone went, oh well, it won't be very good then. And no one bought Merlot for
I'm not drinking anymore, Low. It's in the trailer. Even if you didn't see Sideways, you probably saw the trailer.
The whole movie, you're like, oh, wow.
That is friggin' ridiculous. That's like everybody that went out to buy Dalmatians after 101 Dalmatians came out, and then they forgot that Dalmatians are like one of the most vicious breeds available.
Super hard to raise a Dalmatian.
Oh, yeah. But they're so cute
with their little spots. Do you like? So here's a question, not related to this quiz. Is that like a beloved movie in your motherland, Will?
What?
101 Dalmatians.
Ah.
I'd say more so not the live action one.
Okay. That's
no. It turns out the live action one is actually considered one of the worst films ever made. I did not know that.
Yeah, I was surprised because it's got a great cast. It has a legitimately great cast.
Well, yeah, it's got people who were at the height of their fame as well when it came through.
Yeah.
That's crazy that that's considered a failure because they got the sequel, which is awful.
So financially, it's not. Financially, it made enough clearly to spark the sequel, and it created a lot of merchandise. So it's considered a success in terms of like the Disney market machine, but in terms of like in film history, it's considered one of the worst films, like ratings wise, and like people have critiqued and ripped it apart. Specifically, Glenn Close as Cruella, just like the way that she choose scenery like a fucking Dalmatian.
Like Cruella DeVille should.
Yeah.
Like that'd be like getting mad at Meryl Streep's portrayal in The Devil Wears Prada. Like it's what the character is.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I have no friggin' clue what the name of the hero was in Jingle All the Way, but for some reason in my head I kept thinking Robo Man.
Jamie, you Turbo Man!
Turbo Man. Damn, Turbo Man. Yeah, I could not friggin' for the life of me remember what the first part was.
I like that Curtis Armstrong's in that.
I mean, it's a great movie. It gets weird at points, but then, hey, it's a Christmas movie, so it should.
It gets weird. It does get very weird. Your cookies are so moist, John.
Exactly. And
does it get checking out your underage teen daughters at a Christmas strip show weird? Because
see, you can go deck the halls somewhere else.
Yeah.
Danny DeVito loving Christmas movies. All right, let's get to 10 because I think I got it.
All right. What do you think you got?
I wrote John Hughes.
So did I.
Yes, you are
Okay.
both
Ooh.
very correct with Mr. John Hughes. He's got a great resume.
He does. I just didn't know if they're like, because he's responsible for the story of a lot of movies that then people also consider John Hughes films, like Some Kind of Wonderful.
Right.
Deutsch actually wrote that. What, Phil Deutsch, I think his name is. Where it's a John Hughes story, but everybody thinks of it as like a John Hughes film, which is
Right,
weird
but
to me.
yeah, inspired by John Hughes.
Yeah.
I want to hear what Stephen was questioning himself on with question 11, and if he stuck with him.
Question 11 was not the one I was too. 12 was the one I was really caught up on, but 11 I put music and lyrics because isn't it his dad like a really big writer in that one too?
I wrote About a Boy because he's living fat off the residuals of his father writing the song.
Oh, that could
He
be it.
is indeed living off it in About a Boy.
Okay.
I thought music and lyrics
It
first,
never has
Sejan.
to work. Music and lyrics would be the obvious. Well, I mean, Love Actually is also up there with his best Christmas films.
But About a Boy
About a
isn't
Boy
a
is-
Christmas movie, is it? Like, I don't know if I'd consider it a Christmas movie.
No, not at all. I think it's a Christmas song that comes around once a year, and he hates Christmas because of his father's song.
And then Beast is there as a little boy.
Yes, he's what he was. He kills a duck.
And then they made a TV show on NBC with a crazy cast.
Oh, I've not seen that. Is it worth seeking?
It's worth seeking. I actually really enjoyed it. It's Dr. Rick from Fired Up.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Is Hugh Grant. Minnie Driver plays the boy's mother.
Next door neighbor.
Yeah.
Oh, that's what it is. Yeah.
And
Not the boy.
Al, oh god, the guy from The Daily Show, Al, I can't think of his last name, plays his friend. I can't think of his name. He's so good though.
So we got to talk about 12 because I got to figure out what this one was.
Okay, what did you have?
Okay, so I put Rent, but I'm really questioning that because the whole point of Rent is it takes place over a year. So like it's not like at Christmas, but there's definitely scenes that have to do with Christmas. So I put Rent.
I mean, Cover You with Kisses, Angel is wearing a Santa Claus outfit.
Mm-hmm.
In like every interpretation of that film I've seen, of that play I've seen. So I too wrote Rent.
Did you have an argument for other ones? You know, or you just
I forget what the other ones were now. It was Rent.
Cats.
Cats, I was like, I don't think Cats takes place at Christmas. And after all of our talking about it, I felt like that would have been something I would have remembered. But then, what was the third one?
Fame.
Fame is another one that takes place technically over a year. That was the other problem I had there.
I mean, you get the point. It is Rent.
Okay.
But I was just curious where your brain was at.
Yeah, no, my problem was that two of these don't take place very, very purposely take place over a long period of time. So to say that they take place at Christmas was like, well,
Yeah,
weird.
but that's Seasons of Love, right? It's not 1 month. It's not however many seconds are in a month. I was going to try to do it off the top of my head. 525,600 minutes.
That's the one.
All right, so how many points could we have gotten?
16.
I think that was 12 points. There's a few doubles along the way.
Okay, and how much did you get, Dev?
I got 15 points.
I'm sitting at a solid 9, so I still did about 50%.
Which, I mean, consistency is all we ever ask of.
Friggin' Robert De Niro. I had down Casino, and then Analyze This, and then finally Stardust. But no, it was Brazil.
It was Brazil. Also, Madrigal was the name you were looking
Al
for.
Madrigal, thank you. Yeah. He's so good in About a Boy. Because it's like the first time he's acting and not just doing like a Daily Show character.
Yeah.
All right, do you want to do some tiebreakers?
I'd love to hear the tiebreakers, though.
Yeah, let's do it.
These are shout out answers. No, don't need to write stuff down. We'll just go through them. They're all in what year was something released or done for the first time. So, number one, in what year was Die Hard released?
1985. No, 1988.
Die Hard was... I thought Die Hard was 87, but 88 makes sense.
It was 88.
Okay.
But, we're taking Devin's first answer, so he was wrong.
I was wrong. I said 85.
All I remember is that I was born, which is like a way that I delineate older movies for myself. Is like, was I alive yet?
Oh, BS or AS?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, BS. Excellent. I think we need more Latin based in the second one, so AS should be more, I think we need a better phrase for that, because BS fine. You don't know what that is.
You don't like AS? So,
well, no, it's just like, because you get BC and then like AD is not after Christ, it's Anno Domini, it becomes a random bit of Latin. I think we need more fancy and ridiculousness in your after season.
Oh, we haven't gotten to After Siegen yet, technically, if you really want to think about it.
Well, no, After Siegen is the
we're
birth
not taking
of...
your birth.
Yeah, it's the birth. I don't know. Is that true? Is it the birth or not? Because Bless the Hearts. I don't know if anyone's watching Bless the Hearts. It might just be me. There was this thing where she talks to Jesus Christ. Like, that's a whole section of it. She works at a buffet called The Last Supper. And
played by Kumail Nanjiani.
Yeah, Kumail Nanjiani plays Jesus. And there's a drawing of him, and he comes out of the drawing and speaks with her. And in the Christmas episode, she's like, "How old are you?" And he's like, "Fun hint for that. If you think of what year it is, that's how old I am." And I'm like, is it though? Is it the birth or is it the death? And it's the birth, right?
So it's definitely the birth. The big argument that I've heard is that there are people with certain viewpoints on the world that think that AD means for like after he died. So there's like a 33-year gap in the timeline there. But it is always usually agreed upon that it is before Christ or is before BC.
Well, I always believe AD was Anno Domini, which is year of our Lord.
Right.
So you need a version of that, but for you, because you can't just have After Siegen, because that would suggest you died.
Time stopped while I lived.
We could go BCE and CE with it. BSE and CS.
CS.
BCS and CS before current Siegen and current Siegen.
I'm just going to point out that, that's pretty good. But we focused a lot on my death for the last couple of minutes, and I'm very happy to move on.
Yeah, okay, cool.
We'll stick with current Siegen and move on from that. Tiebreaker 2, for the fun of it. In which year of the 40s was It's a Wonderful Life released in the US?
1941.
43, I was going to say.
I would say 46.
Is that the answer?
That's the answer?
Yes. Technically, Siege was closer.
Yeah, you win that one.
That's how tiebreakers work. And the final tiebreaker. In what year was the first movie that featured an actor playing Santa Claus?
Jeez. I'm going to go with 1939.
39.
And isn't it Miracle on 34th, which was 40? Well, it's 1943 stuck in my head. I'm going to stick with that, but I don't think it's right.
It was in 1912.
Oh, of course.
Damn. Okay.
Santa Claus versus the Martians.
It was the launch of the Titanic, featuring Santa Claus. No, I don't know what the movie was, but that was
the jazz singer, right?
From the Earth to the Moon. Turns out that's the North Pole that Santa lives at, is the moon.
Honestly, if you told me it was that French dude that just had Santa in one of his like insane like silent films that dude did, that's awesome.
I mean, it was a 1912 fantasy silent film called Santa Claus, where a girl dreams she goes to Toyland and helps Santa Claus in his workshop.
What a terrible dream.
I dream of slave labor.
I built the toys. Like, I imagine that in the movie, Santa's workshop is something like Charlie's Chocolate Factory or Willy Wonka's Chocolate Factory.
Well, the list of the cast is quite short. You had Leedham Bantock as Santa Claus and Margaret Favranova as Tingeling, who I assume is the little girl.
I'm gonna look this up.
Yeah, I'm on the Wikipedia now. It's great.
I want to watch it.
I want to see if that's what I mean. Is I want to see if I can find it to watch somewhere. Yeah,
it's on YouTube's. It's on the TubeHubes.
Yeah, but this one gives us a different year than that.
In the film, Tingeling Waits Father Christmas, Toyland, Goodbye to Christmas Land, The Journey to Earth. Oh, great.
The Journey to Earth. I was right about Earth to the Moon.
Yep.
For some reason, one of the gallery pictures is the court of Old Father Neptune.
What?
Oh man, from that same artist that I cannot remember the name of, and it's killing me. It's the dude that Hugo is based on. Hold on, give me a second.
Yeah,
I'm just gonna pull this up.
I can't think of it. I was gonna say Huguenot, but that's just Hugo with an N-O-T at the end.
They were.
That's what I did.
It was directed by Walter R. Booth, Alfred de Mamby, and written by the lead actor.
Are you all waiting on me to look this up? Because
no, I don't know. I don't know what we're doing.
Now.
Like, the quiz is over. Are we going to talk about more stuff? Or...
The quiz is over, and I need to go to bed.
Yeah, it's 3 o'clock in the morning for Will.
Yeah.
I've got a day tomorrow of stuff. I don't know.
I have to get the house ready for the solstice party.
Oh yeah, that sounds fun.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, definitely, I've just had mine. So.
Nice.
Millier, by the way. Now that I got there.
Millier, thank you. That's what we were waiting for.
Merry Christmas. Everybody go to sleep.
That's a good point to end on. We worked out who it was.
Merry Christmas. Will, thank you so much for being our quiz master. And now stay tuned for an actual episode of the Say Report. Good morning, everyone. Merry Christmas. Happy holidays. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to part 2 of this supersized Christmas time episode of the Say Report. I'm Devin Decker, and joining me, you just heard him not know anything about Christmas movies. Big round of applause for my host companion, Sejan Sarowick.
Yes, I clearly didn't know a damn thing, right, with the 50%. But anyway, hey everybody, welcome back to the mega episode for the year.
It's supersized. It's like supersonic, but more McDonald's-y.
Well, you know what's weird? It's because a lot of shit has come up in the last half of this year. Like, a lot has gone on in the last week or two. Have we recorded since the big impeachment?
No, the impeachment is not. We've recorded because we recorded that quiz on Saturday inside baseball. But no, we haven't done an episode proper since Donald Trump became the 3rd president to be impeached and the first who didn't win the popular vote.
The first, to be impeached and also a loser. Pretty good.
He also became the first character in Home Alone 2 to be impeached. That was impressive. I was impressed.
Now we're all just waiting for Daniel Stern to finally get his turn.
I would vote for Daniel Stern to be the president. City Slickers? Come on. Come on.
I don't know. Very bad things happened.
He was Dogbert. Right? Was he Dogbert or was Chris Elliott Dogbert?
No, he was Dilbert and Chris Elliott was Dogbert, yeah.
Yeah, that's crazy. It's crazy that they were Dilbert, those two actors.
That entire cast is insane. I mean, Tom Kenny and Kathy Griffith as your next solid cast there.
Yeah. I liked the Dilbert show. I'm not going to apologize.
I own it on DVD and watch it all the time, and I rest easy knowing that Scott Adams hated it because it wasn't what he envisioned Dilbert to be. So
yeah, exactly. Well, that's sort of why I like it. It's because the best way to adapt Dilbert to a cartoon is to throw it all away.
Yeah.
But in addition to this impeachment, which we should definitely talk more about later in this episode, later in this already hour-long episode, is I feel like I have lived like 3 weeks in the time since our last episode.
Would you say 9 lives?
9 lives is actually, that's a pretty good way to put it. Because Star Wars, we have to talk about Star Wars Rise of Skywalker, especially since Say Report Jr. did not capitalize on the fact that they could have been the first Say Report.
It was a Christmas present to us.
Yeah, it was. Thank you, guys. We're not getting anything from our siblings this year. We're going to let you guys add to the discourse about Star Wars on the internet. But then I also saw Cats. I saw Bombshell. Like, I saw all the December 20th release films this weekend.
And you mean like all of the films that are like being talked about right now? Because like this was not a year for talk about films. Like, you notice nobody's even talking about the Joker anymore.
Right, and the Joker was talked about pretty much all October, and then it just stopped. And it didn't stop for any, like, real reason. Like, it just, like, and we're done talking about the Joker now.
Well, I think that's the reason, man. Is that's not, like, look, we'll talk about it more, I'm sure, as award season goes on, and my feelings are not unheard on this podcast, but it's a shallow film, and so I think it merited about a month's worth of discourse of everybody getting a chance to see it, talk about it for a couple of weeks, and everybody has now moved on, and that is the exact right place in history for that film as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, it feels like everybody was talking about it, and then I saw it, and that's when everybody stopped. So I appreciate the world waiting for me. But in addition to seeing Star Wars Rise of Skywalker, Cats, and Bombshell this weekend, on Saturday night, I got a very late invitation to go see a band play at the Wolf Den at Mohegan Sun.
Nice.
Do you want to take a guess at what band that was?
Let's see. All right. Oh man, at the Wolf Den?
Yeah.
I mean, if it wasn't like some like 80s rock ballad band, like then you were doing it wrong.
It was a 90s band.
Okay. No doubt.
No, it was not No Doubt. That would have been cool too. I saw Soul Asylum on Saturday night. Like Runaway Train, Black Gold, Misery, real weird.
There legitimately was going to be like a sarcastic remark to whatever you said that was about to come out that stopped short in my throat when you actually said who it was. I was like, you got me.
Like, I got to tell you, that's how it felt.
I was not ready for that.
Because, it was the winter solstice, and my mom usually throws this big solstice party on the winter solstice. So, like, that's usually my night sorted. So then I'm like, I get an invite, like, hey, do you want to go to the Wolf Den show? And I'm like, oh no, the answer to this is going to be no. And then as I'm composing my, like, no, I have stuff tonight, thank you for the offer, they're like, it's Soul Asylum. I just stopped because how do I not go see Soul Asylum? How do you walk away from that opportunity?
It is, I mean, that's a hell of a show to run out the door to on a winter's night, man.
And it was so good. I made, like, intense eye contact with Dave and Ryan. Like, there's a moment where he points at himself and points at an audience member. I was the audience member.
Man.
It was so good. Singing along, and they were having a great time, and it was just great. It was just a great time.
Is it still all of the original dudes? Like,
I think it's a different drummer. Because they introduced him as, we're lucky to have him tonight, playing on them golden rods, give it up for Thin Diesel. Because he looked like Vin Diesel, but like with no muscle mass.
Definitely not their original drummer then, for sure. But that's awesome. Like,
yeah,
man, like that's
it's so. And I gotta tell you, I was not truly in the Christmas spirit until, with my group of friends, singing at the top of our lungs, Misery.
Like, they're really, correct me if I'm wrong on this, but like when I think of Soul Asylum, I think of that really nice like transition from like Motley Crue into Nirvana, right? Like there's this weird, they fill that void between the two, if that makes any sense.
They're a Gap band. They're not the Gap band, but they really are, because they have songs that are just as hard as like Motley Crue. That's a pretty good example. Like, they have songs that rock and people are headbanging on the floor and like really getting into it. And then they do like a ballad like Runaway Train or, Misery Incorporated. Is it I think it's just called Misery, though. I think that's just the name of the song. And it's like, yeah, like, and everybody's into this. Like you guys, you bridged the gap, and in a way that I didn't realize. I haven't been to a live show since I saw Weezer and Panic at the Disco at Xfinity Center. Also, the last time I'm ever going to Xfinity Center, because like I realized, no, this is not fun.
Yeah,
anymore.
It's not worth going. Yeah, I mean, well, size of venue. In addition to that's not the best run venue of that size.
Yeah, it's like an amusement park. It's just like the best way to describe it. It's the midway of an amusement park, and then they do a concert in the center, and then you have to leave, and you're like, I wish there were a Minotaur to bite my head off.
You know who does it better, and it is actually legitimately like a fucking amusement park, is Foxborough, where the Pats play, like Patriots Place, where like they've got that village built around the damn place.
Yeah,
like they do amazing work for like all of the different types of shows that they have, from their Halloween shit to rock shows to the Pats. Like, yeah.
Yeah, but I think that's because they got to learn from the friggin' clusterfuck that is the Xfinity Center. And, like, I gotta tell you, that show, I mean, I've seen Weezer so many times, and that show is like, I don't know if I'm gonna go to shows anymore. Like, this feels like the last time I'm gonna go to a show. But then, like, you can see Soul Asylum for free.
Well, and Wolfden is much smaller than...
Yeah. So, you know, I was on the floor. I was only 3 rows back of people. I could see everything. I was interacting with people on the in the floor, like singing with strangers. And then as I go to leave, this woman comes up to me, older woman, and she's like, "Were you at Grand Funk Railroad?" And I'm like, "No." She's like, "You look so familiar." And I'm like, "I got to tell you, I would have been." Like,
how many times do I have to tell you, when an old bog witch asks you if you were in fucking Grand Funk Railroad, you say yes.
All right, yeah, that's true. She probably was going to give me like a golden root.
Yeah. Oh boy, I hear you in your golden voice. Take this with you.
Yeah. So then, you know, you're at Mohegan Sun, so you get the 75-cent wings at Bow and Arrow, and you play craps, and you know, we got there, and the first thing you do is you place a bet in the race book, so you get a free beer at their bar, and we just had this great night at Mohegan Sun. I didn't roll in until 2 a.m. And I had no real plans for that night.
Happy solstice, man.
Yeah, it was a great way to welcome in the winter. And then, in addition to that, I saw these movies. I also saw Queen and Slim finally, like a month later after it came out. And that movie, I want it to get nominated for something, because I can't remember the movie that got nominated over like last year that was like similar type stuff. Because I'm like, if this movie is going to get nominated, Queen and Slim deserves a nomination. I don't remember the movie that I compared it to, and I feel really bad about that.
Yeah, well, and here's the thing, is it'll get recognized by the same people that recognize these kinds of films every year. And I don't just mean African-American filmmakers. I mean, like these kinds of films that are willing to tell these kinds of... I mean, talking a little bit more about it, but it is basically Bonnie and Clyde, right? Like, that is the concept.
So it's Bonnie and Clyde, except they're not... They stumble into the crime that they commit. So spoilers for Queen and Slim, even though the trailer's going to tell a lot of it, but I might let slip some more. So if you want to see Queen and Slim, avoid this part of it, because it is worth seeing. And what it is these two people, they go out on a Tinder date. That's the best way to define it. They matched on Tinder, and they meet for dinner. And then as he's driving her home, he gets pulled over for a bullshit reason. He swerves a little bit because there's something in the road, and then he gets pulled over by the cop, and this cop, you know, he comes out and he's like, I'm going to need to search the trunk, and then he's searching the trunk, and the woman, Queen, I'll use the name Queen, she gets out of the car and she's like, do you have a warrant to do that? Because she's a lawyer. It's established like while they're getting to know each other that she's a lawyer, and the cop shoots her, like, because she's just out of the car. Like, she doesn't have a weapon. She's just standing there. She shoots her, and then Slim, you know, tackles him, gets the gun away from him, and then as the guy's going to reach for another weapon, he shoots him in the chest and murders that cop. So, like, anyone else, what I just said happens, you could, like, get away with self-defense.
For sure.
But because they are minorities in America who killed a cop, nobody's going to listen to that story.
Right.
Like the cops don't even care. They just care that you killed a police officer. They don't care about the story leading up to it. And it's all captured on dash cam footage. Like she has her hands up when he shoots her. And they go on this run because they're like, we killed a cop. Our lives are over. So we just need to get out of the country. So their goal becomes to get to Cuba so that they can live out the rest of their lives in Cuba.
Okay.
And they meet like allies along the way and just this people. And, you know, because of the world that we currently live in, this fucking media circus that surrounds anything like this, you know, it gets trumped up what they did. It's revealed that the cop that they murdered 2 years ago had killed another African-American who was unarmed. So it gets like trumped up as they did this as a revenge killing to like get back for this other innocent that he killed. So they become like these icons to Black America because they're actually standing up for their rights and we're not going to take this anymore. And it's just this incredible way that like at the end of the movie, and this was the moment that like was really humbling, is that like the 6-day manhunt has finally come to an end. And it's just like, it doesn't feel like it was only 6 days when you see like the groundswell that happened. But that's just how fast the news works. Yeah. Like that was not unbelievable to me at all.
Yeah. Well, and it also speaks to a really other scary element that like never gets talked about much. But like one of the big things that like we forget as like white Americans is that we don't live our day to day forced to represent our entire peoples, right? And so this idea that they get thrown into this situation where they were quote unquote nobodies at the beginning of this film and then put into this position where they suddenly represent everybody is like, that's not unheard of either, because that's every time a kid gets shot, we suddenly turn them into everybody. And like, for good and for ill, like there's reasons that we do that on both sides, you know, and it's an interesting thing that is really kind of hits home in a story like that.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's very well acted. The directing is incredible. Melina Matsoukas is the director, and up to this point, she's done a lot of music videos and like a couple episodes of TV. So this is her first feature, and like I want to see more from her.
Yeah.
And you know,
gotta love that, man. That's like, that sounds like one of the most traditional, like badass, like director. You know, Michael Bay has the same story.
Yeah,
you know?
exactly.
Like,
Spike Jones, awesome. Like, there's
yeah.
plenty that like that's how it happens. So it's cool to like see that still happens in 2019. That story can still happen. And you also have Daniel Kaluuya in it. That's what it is. Get Out. Get Out is what I compared it to. Because, you know...
Because he's... Yeah, okay.
Because he's there. And, like, so you're drawing comparisons on that. But this is a far more grounded movie than Get Out, which is, you know, a science fiction horror film at the end of the day. And I feel like that movie was really good with the message up until the third act, when they're like, but now we're going to be a fun horror movie.
Right, when it has to inevitably become a horror movie.
And it got real muddy for me as a viewer. So then, like, I'm like, well, if Get Out is going to get the nominations and everything that it got, and I'm not saying it didn't deserve them. I completely understand why Get Out was awarded the accolades that it was awarded. But it's like, then Queen and Slim should definitely get some recognition for, like, the same reasons. If you're going to say the things you said about Get Out, and how it represents an experience and something that we don't see a lot in America, the same thing has to be said and attributed to what Queen and Slim is doing.
Yeah, well, I hope it breaks through, man. I really do hope it gets through the noise, because there's a lot of noise right now. But I'll be honest, not much of it's good. So if the noise on this one is good noise, then it has a good chance.
Yeah, especially. And like what we talk about, like we talked about it last year, where we don't know what the Golden Globes really mean anymore. And then talking about the fact that, you know, primarily it's all Netflix films that are, you know, nominated currently. And I don't know if they're going to be able to get that same groundswell push with the Academy. So I hope that a film like this, you know, gets acknowledged by the Academy, even though it wasn't acknowledged by the Golden Globes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Also, the Hollywood Foreign Press, they're probably not going to be interested in like a heartland story like this, going from Ohio to Miami. Like that'll
be interesting to see too, though. Yeah, I mean, I would agree with you if it was about a bunch of white people, but that is actually a very interesting. I mean, maybe it is just to us, but it's a much more interesting story when you're talking about a young black couple that's on the run in that part of the country.
Yeah. And that's another layer to the story. So Queen and Slim is excellent, and I recommend everybody go see it. And the fact that it's still in theaters really speaks to, I think, the longevity of the film itself.
For sure, man.
So yeah. So do we want to do more movie talk? I feel like I just swooped in with all the things I did. Is there stuff that you did that you want to talk about, or?
Nothing major. I'm alone in the house this weekend, so I've been doing some alone me stuff. Started The Witcher, things like that. I highly recommend The Witcher, but I'm only a few episodes in, so I want to wait. I'm not one for spoilers, but legitimately there is a thing that happens midway through this series. Apparently, I have not seen it yet. That I'm pissed at somebody for actually ruining for me. So I will say that give it a good solid watch, unlike half of the reviewers have admitted to doing. Because something changes so drastically that if you didn't know this, say if you skipped to episode 5 and you missed what happened after watching the first episode, then you skipped to 5, you might have missed the huge twist in 4 that kind of places things in context. So if you're gonna give it a go, prepare yourself. But I will promise you this: it will carry you along. Like it is one of those shows that forces you to stick with it in the best ways. But anyway, yeah. So I've just been doing some me stuff. Been decorating the house, presents wrapped, that sort of thing.
Nice, very good.
Definitely watch Fred Claus. Should just put a bow on that from part 1.
Good. I'm glad that you watched Fred Claus. We were probably going to do that on the actual day. I think that's when we're going to watch Noel as well. So we'll see.
Very much in that vein. Yeah, definitely.
So it's exciting. Because I don't know. Do you want to talk about the impeachment and what that means, and go into Star Wars and cats and.
Because the rest of the stuff is much more fun to talk about. Yeah. So let's do this real quick. I mean, what does it mean? It are we surprised that it happened? Personally, no.
Do
I think it's going to go further? No.
And that is the more important thing to me, is the fact that everybody celebrated that he was impeached. Trump has been impeached, but then it needs to move forward into a Senate that we have watched sit on its hands and not really do anything.
Well, and I have to be honest, I thought it'd be dead by now, but there's been some smart moves about not doing exactly that I didn't know those cards were in our hands, shall we say. So I'm glad that I'm seeing something surprising coming from this, because it's a crack it's a crack in the darkness, a crack of light in the distance. It's like, okay, maybe there's a way out of this, but we'll see. I don't know, man. There's not much more that I really can say about it.
The really scary thing about it, though, is that if Trump is impeached, it's Mike Pence who becomes our president.
Yeah, we'll see if he could hold on to it after the election.
Right, that's true. I don't know if Mike Pence gets reelected in 2020, and I don't know how that works. I know that.
I don't think he does.
Right.
He's not. Look, he comes from. I mean, he comes from the Indiana area where I was from, and he's not well liked. There's a reason he left where he was. He lucked out that Trump picked him up as the VP, because it basically got him out of a bad situation. So you take that, and then you mix with that the fact that he has been nothing. You could have gotten a cardboard cutout of him to be the VP for the last 4 years, and it would have been the same fucking result. So I don't think that's anything to worry about personally.
But my question is, and I don't know this, and this is what I was going to say, because I learned something from Head of State, the Chris Rock movie, where they just put him up to distract, but then because of how well he does in that whole thing, there's that secondary plot where he is guaranteed to be the front runner the next election. So I don't know if in this situation, because he would be the current president, the standing president, he would be the one that the Republicans would run with. Are they forced to do that, or would the convention get to nominate someone else in light of an impeachment?
I think that right now we're already playing Calvin ball with a lot of the rules that our Constitution supposedly laid out. So I think I think that it's not a guarantee that he has the nomination. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And I think that's the scarier thing to me, because the truly frightening thing about this impeachment is all of the people that I have seen come out in support of Donald Trump. Like it gave them a platform to again say just how much they want him to be the president.
Yeah.
So if obviously if Mike Pence were to run, like if he were to be impeached again, this is a lot of what's there's a lot of conjecture. And it's about something serious. It's not conjecture about like sequels to movies that will probably never happen. This is real life. But if he were to be impeached and Mike Pence were to become the president, obviously that would look very good roadmap wise for Democrats, because I think any Democrat that has been debating currently could beat Mike Pence in the 2020 election.
Mm-hmm.
But if they're allowed to put up another candidate in the wake of an impeachment of Donald Trump, they now know how to speak to those people who got him elected in the first place.
You know who's actually playing it really smart right now, just to feed this fear, just the littlest, tiniest bit?
Yeah.
What am I? How did I just have his name and then lose it? What's his nuts from the last election?
There's so many.
Romney's been playing it really smart. Like he's put his 2 cents in. He's come down on the right side of history by saying that like he believes that the president should be impeached and doesn't trust him. Like he is not a Trump supporter in any way. So like he's positioned himself very nicely for exactly what you're talking about. The inevitability of somebody needing to fill that void and having the recognition from a past presidential race. He's positioned himself nicely. So my money would be down that you're going to see somebody either Romney or like Romney, somebody we've heard from already. Justin Amash would be an interesting like sudden flip. You know what I mean? Like there's a couple of different ones on that side of the fence that I can definitely see jumping into that vacuum as soon as it opens.
Right. I mean, that's the thing. That's the scariest thing. It's the Hydra. You remove one head, the snake will always have another head. And if it's Hydra, it's 2 heads. And that's scarier. But like, that's comic books. I understand that that's comic books. But like, I'm more afraid of what's going to fill the void.
Yeah, like, man. But I mean, if there's one thing this show has ever done, it's proven time and time again that it, as much as you joke about it just being comic books, or we say like jokes about like movies and things like that, but like that stuff is an outlet both for us to like work through these ideas, these possibilities. I mean, you joke about head of state, but like, here we are talking about some legitimate stuff that it get criticized and brought up and is actually important to like real life, and the same goes for the comic book stuff. You joke about the Hydra stuff, but it's hard to not see how all of these pieces are fitting together right now into a pretty scary conglomerate of like-minded individuals that were working behind the scenes, not in any like shady way that's like they're running everything, but they were definitely working together towards a common goal, right? Like
yes,
you can't ignore that.
You can't ignore that. That's
right.
And that's scary. And then to think that we have all this evidence and yet it's going to be the Senate who decides what is done with that.
Right. What evidence is even presented? What evidence is even considered?
I mean, the big conversation of like, should witnesses be allowed to testify in these articles of impeachment trials?
I hope that one day when I have to inevitably go to court for some reason, whether it's late child support or a stolen VCR, that lawyers duke it out about due process for years before I ever walk into a courtroom.
Right.
What other person in this world would be given this opportunity to have the entire system come to a halt and question itself rather than put them on trial?
God, that made my skin crawl. And skin crawling seems like the best and worst way to transition into 2 of the films I saw this weekend.
Yeah, let's talk about the upsetting one first, since we're in this space already.
Cats or Bombshell, because both of them were pretty upsetting.
Well, okay, so here's the thing about Bombshell. I completely forgot you saw it within the last 20 minutes of us talking.
Okay,
and
that's good.
The way that everybody seems to feel about that movie is they keep forgetting about it.
Yeah, I mean, it's great. Jay Roach made magic again. If it doesn't win for makeup, then there's a problem. Because you have to remind yourself that it's not Megyn Kelly, that it's Charlize Theron. They just did such a good job. What was that?
Well, you're talking to me about Lithgow, right?
Yeah, Lithgow. And he's Roger Ailes. He's not Rupert Murdoch. He plays Roger Ailes.
Okay.
And Rupert Murdoch, I don't want to say who plays it, but they write his name as like this actor.
Oh.
And then I'm like, so that's going to be Rupert Murdoch. And he doesn't show up till like the last 5 minutes of the movie. And he does a great job. But it's just, the cast is incredible. And like the transformation of John Lithgow into Roger Ailes, who like polar opposite, night and day. It's basically, what's his name? The guy, the Fifth Element bad guy, Gary Oldman as Churchill. Like it's the same level of makeup that is required to turn him into Roger Ailes. And just like their subtlety in like framing and body language. Like this is almost a play on screen. So go see Bombshell. And I use play on screen because that's what Cats should have been. Instead of the horror-inducing jellicle nightmare that it is.
Listening to Zach complain on Twitter about like the things people should be giving T.S. Eliot shit about versus Andrew Lloyd Webber versus Tom Hooper. Tom Hooper, right?
Yeah, Toby Hooper. Yeah.
Toby Hooper is the
Tom Hooper. Toby Hooper did Poltergeist. I thought it was the same guy.
Massacre.
I'm not gonna lie. Amblin Entertainment also did Cats, so I'm like, did Toby Hooper change his name to Tom Hooper along the way, and I just missed that memo? But no, it's a different guy. I've confirmed.
Yeah, so Tom Hooper took a bunch of mushrooms. He got Judi Dench into a room and said, "Hey, put this on."
Hey, remember in 1981 where you were supposed to play Annie Dots and Grisabella in the opening of Cats in London? How about we put you in as old Deuteronomy?
Yeah.
I don't know why I made him Roger Ailes. I imagine Tom Hooper's a nice gentleman. I don't
and I don't know if he had I don't know who to blame in this situation, man. This is a literal shit show. Like there is like we are at a so from the beginning.
No, not from the beginning. We can get to the beginning because the most important thing, the thing that has to be talked about, the thing that I'm seeing everywhere but I'm not hearing anybody talk about is the fact that this is the first time with like heavy evidence that there is a patch going out to improve this movie.
Yeah. Who said it first? You or Zach? I want to make sure we give credit where credit's due.
Zach sent out that if any of us wanted to go see it in its original form, we should do it before Sunday because the patch is being sent out.
Yeah, but he was the first person I heard use the term patch in terms of this movie, and it's a perfect thing. It's a perfect terminology for it. It to this day, like 3 days later, still kind of like starts heartburn in me, like to hear the term they're patching this movie. And like I don't know where I fall on the whole like patch debate every time you bring it up here on the show with video games, but apparently my body knows where I fall when it comes to movies, and it is release date is release date is release date. You want to put a director's cut out years later with like some context to why, that's a different conversation. This is gross.
It's what really upsets me is I want to march into the theater where I saw Cats on Friday on release day and demand to see it again with these new visuals without having to buy another ticket. I feel like because I was there on day one in the trenches, have a right to see this movie with the fix.
Yeah. And I think we really do need to lay that lie down between seeing something like a director's cut or a re-release, or something years later, or not even years later. They've sometimes done it months later where like, hey, like Avatar now has like 20 extra minutes in it, but it was never within the same friggin' weekend that the movie opened, right? And I think right now that's the only real delineation I have. I seem to be okay with it if there's a certain amount of time that the original movie is being given to be seen. So from there, like, because we have to establish like what we feel the difference is between this and like I said, a director's cut, because like we've seen this happen before, movies being re-edited for audiences to like maybe get a different vision. The cynical person out there may say to get double the money out of a customer, which is exactly what you're talking about, right? Like you feel like it's just trying to milk you.
I feel like it's trying. I feel the conversation around Cats has been so negative and so toxic that that there are people who would probably be like, I didn't like it when I saw it. Oh, but now they fixed it. I want to see it again, and maybe with the changes they make, I will be able to enjoy this. Because Cats is not some like indie film nobody heard of. It is a big screen adaptation of one of the longest running shows in Broadway history. I'd say the longest running show in Broadway history, but I don't know if like Wicked or anything like that unseated it.
It held that title at one point. Let's just put it that way. Like it held the title of longest running musical for quite a few years. And the thing is like, it's one of those shows that even if you're not into theater, you know about Cats. Right. They joke about it on The Simpsons. Like it is that kind of musical theater. It's Hamilton. I mean, it was the Hamilton of its time. Everybody knew about Cats. Memories was sung at every friggin' like audition and talent show. And
there is a reason in Jersey Girl he makes that joke about Memory. There's a reason why all the kids in the talent show are doing Memories from Cats.
Right.
And it's because, well, Kevin Smith is stuck in the 90s when like that stuff was probably happening. I don't know if it was happening in 2006 when that movie came out. But, well, 2004 that movie came out, sorry. 2006 was Clerks 2. So I got it. And it was one of those things that spoke to me because I'm like, yeah, everybody loves Cats, and I don't get it. I don't understand the commercials that play during Jeopardy literally every night. Like, we get it. Cats is coming.
Yeah, or the PBS like special edition whatever concert that they're doing of Cats like every year.
It's one of these things that like, so it's not something that, and it's something that was beloved. So if you go and you see the movie and you loved Cats the stage show, and then they're like, oh, we've released the definitive version, and that's in huge air quotes. I hope you heard it in my voice. And then I say definitive version. That there might be people who are like, well, I need to go see it again. For like, first of all, because we live in a FOMO society. So like, what if I didn't like it because, and I'm going to miss out on actually enjoying this film. And that's just gross to me. Like I did not really enjoy Cats. I think it was a fever dream. I was like, what is happening? I'm confused. I know what this is. And still I'm wondering why this entire time.
Had you seen the show before you saw the movie? Just out of curiosity?
Yes. Like years and years ago. Like it wasn't cognizant. Like I was probably in my teens when I saw it.
I have only ever seen film versions. I have never gone in person to see it, but I've only
So that's it. Like I saw it very, very young. So I had like, it's basically, the Cats are having a talent show. That's what Cats is, basically.
Mm-hmm. And then whoever wins the talent show gets to die.
Gets to die, right? I mean, as a kid, I probably didn't put it in those terms. I was just like happy about the singing cats. And also, you need to consider the difference between practical makeup application and everybody's in a green screen suit and we make them cats in post.
Yep.
Like, and that's where we can get to more your thing. But there's this thing. I want to see it again. I didn't enjoy it. And like the fact that I have a desire to see it again because I want to see what they changed, because apparently it's all computer generated, like visual details. They have not added a single second to the runtime.
No.
And I think that's another delineation for me, is that you're not going and seeing a different movie. Like, I would go and pay to see the Far From Home that re-released this year, or the Once Upon a Time in Hollywood that released this year, because they were adding more to the experience. Yeah. And that's what I'm paying for. I'm paying for that experience. Literally, I'm paying for the same experience, but, we remembered to animate her hands as cat hands this time.
Yeah, man. I don't know. We were talking about this a little off air earlier this weekend, but I legitimately think it's going to come down to what I am now going to call the Sonic effect. Like this idea that we had an audience that saw a thing, CGI specific, and this is very very specifically, and now that we are getting more into the digital world with movies, we had an audience that demanded a revision based on just a preview, and they won. They were, who's doing that one? Universal or Paramount?
It's
Paramount, right?
Universal.
Um, but they gave in to this audience of people that hadn't even seen the movie
I'm
yet.
sorry. Sonic is Paramount. I'm sorry. I thought we were talking about Cats. You're right.
Yeah, Sonic, Paramount. Yeah, so they decided to go back to the drawing board and do that thing that they did, and they pushed animators through fucking 17-hour work days to get it fixed and all this other stuff. They even bullshitted a little bit and said, we never intended that to be the final version, which is like the grossest thing I think that came out of that one. But since then, there's been this moment, this taste in the air. I've been waiting for the other shoe to drop for us to find out what that actually is going to mean to the rest of the industry, and I think this is the first signs of it. The more and more digital stuff that we put into these movies, and we've been doing it for years, but this is the first time we now have people going back in and retouching. Oh no, the director wanted to really kind of do this before, but there was a time crunch. Let's do this now. What's the excuse? I don't know what the reasoning really is to this, but saying we're going to make it prettier is just going to become the blanket excuse to just go into any movie now and just change it. Just change it.
Right. And, we're going to be talking about Star Wars Rise of Skywalker, and I feel like George Lucas is really kind of the trope setter in terms of, I want to make this movie better. I want to bring it more in line with my vision, with adding Jabba the Hutt to New Hope and, the crazy singing lady in Return of the Jedi.
Yeah, and we're stuck in this weird place now of wanting the originals, and we might not get them, right? So that's an even shittier situation. Not to say that we'll ever get the original version of Cats again, but there's this weird feeling that we had that and it was taken away from us, whereas this time around we weren't even given the chance for it.
Well, I think the truly frightening thing about it, and I mean, I sent out an article because I was doing research on this all weekend, is the download was sent out on Sunday morning. Right. So if you were connected to the server, if that's how you're getting these digital versions of the films to display in your movie theater, that patch was sent out on Sunday, and that's how we want you to show it. And if you can't do that, you will be receiving a hard drive with the updated version on Tuesday, and as soon as you have it, that is the one you are showing. So it's this it's just the reason why we're calling it patches is because it's just we played Borderlands 3 over the weekend, and we were ready to go at 9:00, but we didn't get to play until 9:30 because we had to both update that game.
Right.
And I don't know why I had to update that game. I don't know what was changed about it. I just know that I was held hostage before getting to play something that I own. Again, huge air quotes around that. Because they said, you don't get to play this online with your friend until you are in line with what we do.
Yeah, man. And how much longer until we get movies as service? We talk about the idea of being constantly connected in games because they're no longer games, they're services. So you're constantly going in and you're able to buy things in stores and upgrades and all this other stuff. On Borderlands right now, I can switch on HDR or switch it off with just a button press, right? That sort of thing. And how much longer until that's suddenly what we're doing with movies? It's not too hard to believe that something like that could happen, because anytime I put a Blu-ray into my Blu-ray player, it downloads the latest previews to play. So why not, on top of that, add an extra 5 minutes of download and download the latest CGI updates for the movie I'm putting in,
Right. And it's going to be, they've learned there is already a blueprint in place from gaming. And they've learned that if given the choice, there are people who are going to choose not to update, right? And there are options with that. They're not going to give us that choice in films.
Yeah, well, that's one of the things that I love about the idea of the director's cut is it gives me the ability to own both, and I can compare them, and I can talk about what's different and why that's different, and who has the authority to make those changes. It makes the movie better to have the ability to have access to both.
Right. I'm talking more in the cinema sense, where like if they are trying to move to this server system, because this was the first real confirmation that there was a huge server system where they beam out these movies. Like, what is to say that they're not going to, say this movie cannot be played until you add this CGI to it?
Yeah.
You can't even do it the old way. And it feels like, God, now I'm getting real tinfoil hatty. Sorry to take...
No, man, you're just talking about DRM right now. That's all you're talking about. Like if we can't verify this as the latest edition of this movie, it will not play on your screen. Good luck, Cineplex,
And it feels like that's... I don't know if you remember it when Force Awakens came out. There were all those theaters where there were issues with it because they added a 3D trailer, a 3D Warcraft trailer to the 2D version of the hard drive. So then when you tried to put that through a projector that wasn't equipped for 3D, it ended up crashing the whole file. Like this is
the world we live in. This is the world we live in. So, a 3D World of Warcraft trailer brought down Star Wars Episode 7.
And that's the thing. But like now that I see where we are now that I see where we are 4 years later, I can totally see that being something that they did in order to advocate for, well, that's why we want to do this server thing. That's why we don't want to be sending out hard drives, why we want to be able to have constant connection and access to your theater to make sure that something like this doesn't happen again.
For sure, man.
And and people are going to sign on because, they had to give out free tickets to all of those people who were there at Star Wars because of that delay. Because I didn't buy my ticket in July to be able to not get to watch Star Wars right at 7 p.m. Eastern time.
I mean, you want to talk about another Tom Hooper movie, Les Mis? The showing that I went to, the opening night of it, it didn't have front-loaded audio. The theater was fine. It was the version of the film they had. Can you imagine the first 40 minutes of Les Mis with no front audio, everything coming from the back? And then, like, the last 2 hours, it suddenly kicked in. So I don't know what the hell happened there. But they had to give every single person in that 300-seat cinema a free ticket to come back because, like, there was no excuse for that. And, I mean, like, so, like, this is something that has happened with his own movies before.
Yeah. So I'm like, it's just this thing where it's like, and the cinemas are going to be like, anything you can do to streamline this process so we're not giving out readmits or anything like that, we're going to sign up right away. And it just gives more power to the studios to do stuff with the films where, like, we kind of had an unwritten social contract with what it meant to go see a movie at the theater.
Right.
And it just feels like that's slowly dwindling away. And it's weird that the first one to paw at that ball of yarn is Cats. Of all movies. That it's Cats. A film that didn't it make $2 million its opening weekend? Like, am I just...
Which is insane. It should not have done that. You know how hard they had to try to only make $2 million?
The other thing is, and this was, I mean, all credit to Diedrich Bader for this, because he tweeted out, he retweeted the whole, here's how you can tell if you're seeing the updated version of this or not. So they rushed it to theaters to compete against Star Wars Episode 9. Like, why wouldn't you delay it?
Yeah.
Like there's shades of the producers here. There's where, we wanted it to be a flop so that we could write off all our tax.
Or, suddenly start to have this excuse to update movies, which is maybe something they've always wanted to implement, and this just became a vehicle for it.
Yeah.
You want to talk about tinfoil hat time? Like, they made this movie bad on purpose. No, it's the problem is, right, is it opens that door.
Yes.
And you can't allow that. You cannot allow that with anybody nowadays, because the internet is a terrible place. And like, but now we'll never be able to trust another movie. Like, plain and simple. You've shown us that we will never be able to trust another single thing that we see. So thanks. You've ruined part of that.
I have to see movies when they come out now. Because I don't want to go, like, I don't want to wait like I had to wait for Joker, or like I had to wait for, I still haven't seen Frozen 2, because I don't want to go, you know, when it's convenient for my schedule 2 weeks later and be seeing a different film than those people who saw it opening weekend.
Yeah.
And then, like, there's also, like, opening weekend is sort of what determines the worth and value of a film.
Right.
So, like, the fact that that version might be imperfect and still be the one that, like, drives home $100 million opening weekend, that like, disgusts me.
Yeah. Like, to pull it back a little bit away from, like, the guessing games and, like, the conspiracy theory stuff, like, what they envisioned going on this weekend is plain and simple. This was going to be a bad weekend for movies because of where Christmas was going to fall in the next week, because that's when these movies are all going to actually get seen. So this opening weekend shit, we have to just not consider on these particular sets of movies, which I know is a pipe dream. That'll never happen. It's all anybody will talk about will be these opening weekends. But even people are saying Star Wars underperformed. Yeah, but wait for the holiday. I bet all of a sudden next week's news is going to be $600 million on Christmas Day. Like these movies are all going to pick up. All of them are going to pick up. And I think what they were kind of really hoping with this news and rushing out this new type and all of this stuff is, I think you're right, they rushed the movie to audience. I don't even think that's even a question. They rushed it to compete with Star Wars on this weekend, thinking it was going to be the Star Wars alternative, I guess, right? But then on top of that, they were thinking, even if we tank on opening weekend, we can float through Christmas. And then they saw how bad they did. So now they've rushed these patches out. And I think that's pretty. I think that's a pretty
and that's so gaming. That's so gaming. Is everybody is complaining that our game is unplayable? Let's push out a patch day one.
Yeah, or let's push out this very specific patch 3 weeks into it, and suddenly everybody comes back for a moment. You know, everybody's joking right now because The Witcher, the series, has driven hundreds of thousands of players back to The Witcher Wild Hunt. Like, they have legitimate numbers to back it up now, and they're like, man, this is great. Like, it's great that the show is good, but on top of that, it's also really improving like this other part of the IP, right? And so they're like, should we start on Witcher 4? Should we put a patch out? Like, what should we do? Like, they're chomping at the bit to do something because they know people will continue to come back to them, right? And so seeing it working there is like, I don't know, like it warms my heart there because it's creators doing right by fans, like in all steps of that circle. Whereas here it doesn't work the same way, because like as much as it's the same concept, the same idea, like let's keep people in the seats, let's keep them coming back, it just feels gross.
Yeah. Oh, and also the last thing that you didn't mention is they release Cats against Star Wars. It doesn't do well. They can say, well, it's because Star Wars.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, it's a good out.
Yeah,
for sure.
Especially when you consider the last thing, and then we'll actually talk about Star Wars. I'm very happy we had so much fun in the first hour of this episode, because I feel like we've just gone to the darkest underbelly of pop culture with this second half.
Yeah, the last 20 minutes, 30
it's
minutes
gonna be pretty great.
But we're gonna get to the good stuff.
Yeah, we're gonna get to some good stuff. So please hang in there. I promise it'll be good. Is that it was supposed to be Wicked. There are the Wicked posters out there with the 12/19/2019 release date on it.
Yeah, but I think they saw Star Wars coming and backed the fuck away.
And that's what
right?
I'm saying. And that's what I'm saying. But then why would you be like, well, we're not going to release Wicked against Star Wars, but let's release this?
Because somebody had no faith in it, like plain and simple. Like somebody higher up was smart enough to realize from a long way out exactly what was going to happen this past weekend. And on top of that, somebody else in the chain really wanted to make this movie. So it was a trade-off. I like, let's just say for argument's sake, Tom Hooper, I don't know if this is true or not. This is completely out of my ass. But if this is a project that he's wanted to do for a long time and you're 3 steps above him and you see what's coming down the pike, this is the time to give him a passion project. You say, fine, here's 60, 70, 80 million dollars. It's going to be a flop. Who cares? Like we're doing, so good in the numbers this way. We have this to look forward to, like Wicked. We have Wicked coming now in like what'll probably be the next 2 years. We will see a Wicked movie. And so with that in mind, you say, fine, Tom Hooper, do your passion project. Let's do this thing. Because you do that. You do that to fill contracts. You do that to make sure people are fed for the next 2 years until they can make Wicked. Like there's reasons to make these movies, even when you realize it's not going to work. But I guarantee you, they knew this movie was never going to work.
Yeah, and I just think that's the dirtiest part about it, because we can look at it and we can say that. So then all of the crazy conspiracy stuff that we bring up has that like airing of like, yeah, it could be true, because it's pretty obvious where they were coming at this from already.
Take it from an insane conspiracy nut. There's only one way to really truly stay sane while thinking about all of this stuff, and it's when you first think everybody's working together towards a common goal, conspiracy, but then you remember every single one of those people in the conspiracy is still an individual person and is still only out for themselves. So that really is going to pull that conspiracy apart really fast. So as much as everybody was like, yeah, let's put this movie out, who knows how it's going to do, there are still people out there that are like, let's market it this way, let's update it that way, let's patch this in, let's do that, because we need to get our ducats. And like, so every part of that chain was definitely working together to make what they probably knew was going to be a damn shitty movie, still shoved it down our throats because they still want to get paid.
And that's why I'm friends with you, because you always bring me back to reality as I spiral down the infinite imaginary staircase of insanity that my brain definitely has a door to, but I usually can keep locked and guarded. And on that note, Star Wars, nothing but Star Wars, Rise of Skywalker, it's episode 9, Rey, Kylo and Finn, Poe Dameron, Leia is dead. I mean that because Carrie Fisher is dead. Like spoilers have not really started yet.
And no, but they have. Like let's just put that blanket out there, because like first and foremost, Carrie Fisher getting a lot of play in this movie post-mortem.
Yes.
Like I both very much appreciated it as a fan, but also as like a human being have stepped back from it and been like that felt very weird in retrospect.
What made it feel weird for me is Dale brought me down to Wizard World New Orleans right when Carrie Fisher had passed away. Like it was the first major event like that took place after the passing of Carrie Fisher, and they had this huge banner and they wanted everybody in attendance to sign that and like to write like a memory of Carrie Fisher on it, to like show just how much she touched all like corners of, you know, entertainment and popular culture. And like then I see her in this movie 2 years later and I'm like, it's weird because I definitely,
as somebody that's been a Tupac fan for life, man, you get used to it at some point. It definitely, as I said, in the moment very much loved it, and like in service of what she meant to this story and what this story meant to her in her life, like everything is done tastefully. So like I don't feel like it was like I don't feel it was gross in any way. I'm sure somebody out there does, but I didn't. And then like it was only in retrospect that I was really just like, oof, man, that's a weird space to be in right now.
Plus her like granddaughter or daughter, Billy Lord,
her daughter's in it.
Yeah,
she's been in the last two, right?
Yes, she's been in the last two, and she was great in Booksmart. Just giving a shout out to a fantastic actress. But it was great seeing her and being like, okay, so there's also somebody from her family on board with this film. You got to imagine that they did it with as much respect and reverence as possible.
Well, you know, and you know, giving a lot of credence to Hollywood stories here. So, you know, who knows if they're true or not, but the understanding being that the relationship she had with Mark Hamill and even Harrison Ford and Lucas and everybody involved with Star Wars was a good one. So like these weren't a group of people out to like try and make any money on her name. These were a group of people that cared about her and wanted to give her a good send off. And you felt that in the
that's
Carrie
exactly
Fisher
it. Yeah. So
Yeah, beautiful moment, man. Okay, so spoilers have already been thrown out there, right?
Yeah,
But like,
spoilers. Fine,
man, that
official
flashback
spoilers.
to her and Luke is so good. Like the
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 Jedi
learning
training.
about Jedi training and learning about what actually went on, filling in the blanks. I mean, that's what this movie is. This movie is Star Wars Episode 9, filling in the blanks. Like, um, and it comes hard and fast. Like they give you basically everything you've been asking to try and figure out. They pretty much feed you pretty steadily for about what 2 hours and some odd minutes.
2 hours and I think 26 minutes,
Oof,
if
man,
memory
did
serves.
not feel like that.
No, it
I have to be
flew by.
yeah.
That's why I sent to our little group Discord at the end. It's midnight because I didn't think
Yeah.
it was going to be midnight when that movie
Yeah.
got out. Like,
When I first was watching the movie, I was worried that things were kind of moving at too fast of a pace for my liking. But then I thought about it. The first 30 minutes of any Star Wars movie that is not the first in a trilogy, so like not New Hope, not Phantom Menace, and not Last Jedi, or what is it?
Force Awakens.
Force Awakens. Like the first 30 minutes of the other six always feel like that to me. There's always this like weird like catch up of what's been going on between episodes. And so I had to kind of remember that in watching this movie, that like for the first 30-40 minutes where I was like, man, things are kind of just moving along. We're not sitting at anything. And then I was like, oh, that's because all of this is just technically exposition for what I'm going to see for the next 2 hours. I gotcha. Like, so there was that moment in the beginning where I was a little worried.
but it says one of those things is one of my favorite parts. Again, I am not a Star Wars fan. Like, I don't think I would ever call myself that. But things I really like about the series and about the style of storytelling is that time jump between episodes.
Yeah.
So that, like, we're joining this story already in progress. It just makes it feel more alive. And it helps to flesh out these characters that, like, just because you weren't watching them doesn't mean they didn't do stuff.
Well, and from a filmmaking perspective, it gives you the ability to hit the reset button on some stuff, which they did hardcore.
Hardcore.
Some stuff to my disliking. Like I'm gonna be honest about this entire thing the entire way through. So I mean, first and foremost, surprise, I enjoyed this one. So like, let me put that out there. Like, I very, very much enjoyed this movie. But you know, there's definitely some stuff that I felt I was missing from Last Jedi. You know, but for people out there that maybe didn't enjoy Last Jedi, maybe that was a good thing. So
here, this movie succeeded in the way that I needed it to succeed. It wasn't Jumanji the Next Level, where it literally checked off every box of what I would need a sequel to Jumanji Welcome to the Jungle to be. Like, that one I went in and was like, specifically, this is what a sequel to a Jumanji video game movie should be. What I wanted from Rise of Skywalker was to be entertained. And where it exceeded expectations for me is that it succeeded in making The Last Jedi a better film in hindsight. And I think that is what J.J. Abrams was intimating every time he's like, well, I'm not going to retcon what came before it.
yeah.
I'm going to try to make it work with the story I want to tell.
Do you think there's any like credence, to use a word twice this episode, but do you think there's anything to the bullshit about him and Rian Johnson, like, quote unquote, having a falling out over Last Jedi? Like, I never felt that J.J. Abrams was like upset with what happened in Last Jedi. I think he personally feels like people just didn't get it, and I think he's a guy that feels like that a lot of the time with his projects. Like just look at Lost, just as an example. You know what I mean?
I was gonna say, thank God he made Lost, because it allowed him to approach Rise of Skywalker knowing, if I set up a question, I should probably answer that question in the end.
Right. But, you know, like, just to keep up with the metaphor, Lost fell apart in the middle for a lot of people, and then it picked itself back up in the end. So, like, I think we're seeing a real strong pattern with this guy right now, that it seems like he loses his audience for a moment, but he's always able to reel him back in, because, like, even though Rian Johnson did Last Jedi, and a lot of his personal touches are definitely on that movie. I never felt like it was out of J.J. Abrams' hands, and I guess that's where it's really coming from. Is a lot of people seem to think that like he lost control of it for a movie, and then he had to wrestle it back in this one, and that's how they're approaching this movie. Is like watching J.J. Abrams having to deal with the fallout of Last Jedi, and I don't feel like that's what it is at all. Like I don't know. Maybe
Okay,
I'm.
so you saying they had a falling out because of this movie is the first time I ever heard those words.
I'm glad. I'm glad to hear that,
So,
because like there's been some serious weird talk from people that, to be fair, have been very down on Last Jedi, that feel like it led to J.J. Abrams being put in this weird position. And I thought that might be what it is, and you're just kind of confirming that for me.
Yeah. So I mean, I feel like maybe like I was searching through my memory banks and maybe I saw one clickbaity headline that was J.J. Abrams says it's not what I would have done regarding The Last Jedi.
Which is like the same shit they were pulling from like everybody. Like they even tried to do that to Mark Hamill, and he straight out came out and was like, no. Look, I do have my personal feelings about Luke and who that person is, but I also stand by this movie. Like there was an entire like fucking like Twitter thread that he had to come out and do the exact same thing. So I'm not surprised that evolved into maybe something more with J.J. Abrams.
But I could also see J.J. Abrams being like, just as a throwaway line, being like, it's not the movie I would have made, but I didn't make it. Like,
well, right.
It's just
right.
like,
and
that's
like,
just
context
fact.
Is key, right?
That's just
suddenly
the fact
that gets
of it.
right. But suddenly that quote gets taken out of a weird context that it might have been asked in. Suddenly it blows up and it becomes this whole thing. But look, the big thing is that this feels like J.J. Abrams going back to Last Jedi and saying, like, no, this is like I intended this. Like this is part of the story I always wanted to tell. Like I'm not rejecting any of that, and that felt really good as somebody that really loved Last Jedi. So like that is a good thing that came from that bridge.
Yeah, I think the only I absolutely loved Rise of Skywalker. I couldn't believe how much I loved it. Like driving home, I was aghast. I just I like this and I like this and I like that. And then I took a breath, and in that breath there was that one glimmer of doubt, the reason why I could not be a Jedi. And that is, but I'm kind of bummed, as much as I have my feelings about Last Jedi and what that movie was, I liked how it ended with this idea that she's not our last hope. Hope could come from anywhere in the galaxy. Right. With that kid using the Force on that random planet.
Right.
And it kind of
casino planet.
It was the casino planet. I don't remember.
Yes.
That's what I was. I didn't want to say it if I was wrong about it. Yeah, it's the kid on the stable on the casino planet. I'm just it could just be any kid anywhere, sweeping. And I'm and that's the message that I took away from that. And I like that message because, hope can be anywhere. It doesn't have to be one person.
Mm-hmm. I have feelings about this, but I'm going to let you finish.
No, that's fine. But then it's just but then that one thread, that thread that there might be other people ready to be Jedis out there in the universe was not picked up. And the fact that it wasn't picked up does not upset me. I still enjoyed Rise of Skywalker, but there was that moment where I took the breath from all of the accolades that I was just letting flow from me, and I'm yeah, but what about this? And I'm
well, let's talk about it for a minute. So I think one of the big things that I can say about that specifically is this movie doesn't negate that in any way. In fact, it kind of opens the door for it. The ending of this movie is this idea that she's abolishing the concept of the Jedi and the Sith, right? And so it's not that these people are not going to exist. These Force Jedi, I don't want to call them Jedi because Force I don't think they take that name.
Is probably the best
Skywalkers seems to be what we're supposably going to call them. Right?
Don't.
That... but going by the title, right?
Yes.
But the idea that there are these Force friends.
We're the Force friends, baby.
Right, and so she evolves into that at the end of this movie, right? And so this idea that there are other people out there that are connected to the Force, able to use the Force, but those people now get to grow up, exist, and train in an atmosphere in which it's not the balance and it's not Jedi Sith, is amazing to me. That feels cool and interesting, and I want to see more now, right? It opens that door in a really, really good way. So I think if you it's a shame that they don't address it specifically. You're not wrong. And so this is definitely me kind of like imposing my own shit on it. But if you take what happens at the end of that movie, at the end of Last Jedi, and you take what happens at the end of Rise of the Skywalker and put them together, it's a pretty hopeful sandwich.
Oh yeah, it's nothing but that. And
Right.
we have 2 hours recorded on this computer that I will never release. And one of
For
the
reasons.
for real good reasons, the Gincident is real. Hashtag Gincident 2015. But that conversation, and the reason why that conversation was so positive and good, is that after Force Awakens, it really felt like the concept of the gray Jedi, which is still like a negative phrase. I prefer the term Sentinel, knowing what I know about the expanded universe and extended universe. As someone who like understands that the Force is just a tool to be used and nothing, you shouldn't call it light or dark. It's just the Force, and it should be wielded if you can wield it in order to accomplish your goals, which is Guy sitting next to Dale and I in the theater, the significance of her having a yellow lightsaber at the end of the film.
Right.
Because we cheered. She turned on her lightsaber, and it was
yellow.
a yellow blade, and
Yeah.
Dale and I went, yeah! In a room of Star Wars fans, and
Yeah.
no one else had that reaction.
Oh, we all did. My entire
No,
theater
I'm
fucking
talking.
lit up.
I'm talking my theater.
No, I know.
hey.
I'm just letting you know that you're not alone.
Yeah, well, I certainly hope not, if you know anything. And then he, after the credits start rolling, turns to Dale and he's like, what was the significance of the lightsaber? Like, why did you cheer? And she's like, do you mean like the fact that she made her own lightsaber or the blade color?
Because all of it is
Because all of
very
it's
important.
it's pretty important that without a master, she was able to build a lightsaber. Like, that's like checkbox 1. But then the fact that she chose a yellow kyber crystal means, like, to those of us who are nerds, I don't like that word, but you gotta be a nerd to read the pages and pages and pages.
It's a very specific type. It's a
Yeah.
very like you're nerdy about this topic. Yeah.
Yeah, you're that specific thing where, like, so you see that and you're like, that's cool, because other people who've used a yellow lightsaber, like, wouldn't be above using Force lightning if the opportunity came and it was necessary.
I cannot wait for you to watch the fucking Mandalorian.
Okay.
Because there's just I really can't, because like I think what you're beautifully doing is you're showing that people are afraid right now that with Disney being in charge, like the boogeyman of Disney being in charge, that it has lost all focus and that it's just out for money and nothing else. And I think what you're doing is you're showing that no, there's been a point to this all along. This idea that she does need to become this being
Yeah.
that understands that there is good, there is evil in everybody, not just like in the galaxy, but in each person. And from there, like, what they do with it is what matters, is like, first of all, hands down, the entire fucking spine of the Mandalorian. And then, like, on top of that, like, it's been the point all along, really, right? Like, the idea that men can't choose to do, as much as I never want to give Lucas credit, because I'm convinced he's been fucking just winging it since fucking
you mean
day
that
one.
thing that he's definitely been doing?
He's been
That
fucking winging
I
it
can
since
find
day one.
quantifiable evidence that Lucas has been winging it.
Yeah, it's amazing how long he has gotten away with it. And I mean, he's going to get away with it for the rest of his life now, and he should. A bullshit artist at this caliber and at this level should be given the ability to get away with his bullshit, despite the fact we all know it's bullshit. But anyway, with all of that in mind, right, the one thing I will say is that he's always had this concept in this thread of good and evil, and it's not really about that, but everybody labels that, is like bread and butter, right, for Star Wars. Like, it's so part of that ethos. And so these movies nail that in such a perfect way that it's just awesome. Like, the whole thing is just awesome, man.
Yeah, well, especially when you consider the prequel trilogy, one of the only reasons that Anakin is driven to the dark side is because everybody's like, oh, you're gonna go to the dark side, and eventually
Everybody
you're gonna
but
be
Yoda.
like, yeah, everybody's gonna be like, oh, you're gonna be a Sith, you're gonna be a bad guy. So it's like, and like, also, we know that he becomes a bad guy. We know that he becomes Darth Vader. So, like, it's this weird thing of it where, like, we know that it's going to happen, but it almost feels like, well, if you keep telling a kid that eventually he's going to murder a dog, he's probably going to murder that dog. Like,
are you saying that there's a chance that the Rise of the Skywalker didn't just save Last Jedi for you, but also the entire prequel trilogy?
Oh, I love the prequels. The prequels are like, I've always been an advocate of the prequels because
I think you're convincing me that the prequels have so much more merit. And as somebody that doesn't hate the prequels, like some people hate the prequels, but I also don't love the prequel movies. But now I'm thinking, shit, do I need to go rewatch those movies? Because now this might have actually made everything come together.
Yeah, because the last time I rewatched them, we sat down and we watched all 3 of them in a row, and it was because of how much Dale enjoyed Force Awakens. So she's like, I'd like to watch the prequels before the next film. So we sat and we watched them, and in watching them that second time through fresh eyes, knowing what was to come, the best parts of the prequel are those moments. Like, I talk about, I hate sand, and like that's like my favorite scene with Anakin Skywalker is when he goes back to Tatooine and he's like, I hate sand, and it's like, I get it. And you might not have hated sand when you were here, but now that you've been to an urban environment where like it's clean and you don't have sand everywhere, like the moments where they're not explicitly like, one day you're going to be Darth Vader, are these beautiful moments of like getting to see that person as more than just Darth Vader.
Well, and what's really interesting about like addressing specifically his evolution into this character that's like, I hate sand and I didn't realize how much I did before. Like the prequel series is just a study in like toxic masculinity, like the downfall. Like you said, you keep telling somebody, hey, you're gonna be a killer one day, and then lo and behold, one day they kill. Like, can you really, like, who's to blame there, right? And that idea of that, man, like
yeah,
he's driven to that in such a clear way. And oh my God, Devin, why are you doing this to me?
Oh, I'm sorry. I mean, I'm
gonna...
don't
be sorry. Don't be sorry at all. This is amazing. It's this idea that, again, I've never been the kind the guy to like hate on those movies in the way that some people are so gleefully do. But I have never found myself wanting to go back to them before. The third one there, so Rise of the Sith.
Revenge of the Sith,
yeah. Whatever. Yeah. But that one I've considered going back to many times just because I love the final moments for Obi-Wan when he's like screaming at him at the volcano. But like besides that,
Mustafar. Let's give credit where credit's due. They're on Mustafar.
I always have to remind myself that it's not Hayden Christensen in Phantom Menace. That like there's actually a little boy first, and then it becomes Hayden Christensen. Like, right. I forget so much about Phantom Menace, so now, shit, I'm gonna have to go back to those movies.
Yeah, it's one thing, and it's one of those moments where like, and Dale, because she was all about Grey Jedi, and like Grey is going to be this because she has the benefit of finding the Force without someone telling her this is what the Force has to be. This is what you have to be in order to use this. So Dale was all excited about that. And then we watched the prequel, and, you know, credit to Dale, and I hope that she can bring this up when they actually get to talk about it, is she's like, the real villains in these are the Jedi. Because of their belief systems and because of how they treat people because of those belief systems. And to hear that said, like, I feel like the revelation that I have awoken in you, it truly came to light in me, where it's like, yeah, I never really thought of them as the villains.
Well, let's talk about fucking Palpatine, because we need to in this moment, right?
Yes.
Okay, so holy shit. First and foremost, did not see that coming. Not in any stretch. Even if it's been mentioned before to me, just wrote it off in my head. Had no concept of that being even a possibility of Palpatine being the one, right?
Yeah.
The
laughter in the trailer was like the only hint I had. So that coming, so him like that laugh and that being a possibility, like him being in like the shadowy background is fine. But I'm talking specifically about his relationship with Rey. I mean, are we doing this? Are we just talking about this? Talking about Star Wars?
Yeah. Okay. So like
it's hour 3 of our supersized episode, and we're talking about Rise of Skywalker.
Grandfathering Rey and also being Snoke being a clone of him. Both of those things make perfect total narrative sense, work perfectly for me, and are amazing. So just love all of that. But the thing that really fucking blew me away in this movie regarding Palpatine is the reveal that if Rey exists, and the fact that they don't dwell on this is honestly some of the best filmmaking I've ever seen J.J. Abrams do. But the idea that Rey is his granddaughter, implying that he fell in love at one point, implying that that's how he fell away from the Jedi, and now you talking about the idea, the revelation that the Jedi are the real villains, like, yes, like they drove Palpatine, the greatest actual tangible villain in this universe, they drove him to become what he is because of their belief system. Is just like, it's just dripping with that irony in these final moments. Like, it is legitimately some of the best filmmaking I think I've seen anybody do, let alone J.J. Abrams.
Right.
The reveal and everything is just perfect.
And it's one of those moments where I was fine with Rey's parents being nobody. Like, that was revealed in Last Jedi, and I'm like, you know what? I like that. There's something I like about that, because it's cool that it's not incestuous anymore. It's cool that, like, there's a grander world out there. And if anything, that is, even being down on it before, that is where Last Jedi succeeded, was making it feel like a grander universe. Right. Which is crazy for the 8th movie in a series to do. But that's really what it did.
Yeah.
And then for like the description, your parents were nobodies, but because that's what they forced themselves to become, so that you could be protected.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, it doesn't negate that, it builds on it, which was perfect. Yeah.
Yeah. It's great. And it's great. Like, and there's that scene very early on where they're at the ancestor celebration on the planet, and the girl asks her what her family name is because she wants to honor them the way that Rey honored her ancestors. And Rey just like you've never saw it up to that point, just like so beautifully carved out how much it means to her to come from nothing and to know nothing about where she came from. And it's just like, oh my God, like I never thought about the weight that is on this poor girl's mind almost all the time, as she meets like Luke and Leia, who have each other, and Han, who has a wife and a son. And then she finally gets it, and it's friggin' the worst dude in the galaxy by all accounts in these films.
And you know what's great about all of this, like in terms of just like progressive filmmaking and female characters, is it never breaks her. Like, right. It never, it doesn't, it shapes her, but it never breaks her. If this movie was made 10, 15 years ago, and God forbid this, like, it was a female lead as a Jedi in these movies, that it would have been this whole thing. We would have found out at the end of 2 that that's who she was. Luke, I am your father, right? Like, right. It would have been that moment, and it would have been the entire driving thing in the next movie, good side, dark side. It would have been Luke all over again.
Yes. But
they didn't do that. And I cannot thank them enough for not doing that. She just is fantastic for 3 movies.
Yeah. She's great. Yeah. And all the, like, there are people who ask questions like, oh, how did she learn how to do the force transfer, the life force transfer? And I'm like, she's got books. We saw that she stole those books.
And it's been years. It's been years since it's been at least a year since the last movie, and she's got access to Luke and Yoda because we know that from every other Star Wars movie, that even though her masters are dead, they can still speak with her. She can still contact them.
Right. And even then, she has the books, and by all accounts, we saw that all she's doing is reading these books.
Right.
Like, right. She cares about this subject, much like the people who are going out and reading about what a Jedi Sentinel is and what the meaning of each color's saber is. So it makes perfect sense that she is continuing to march down this own way. And that's why when she uses the Force Lightning and blows up the transport in that gorgeous tug of war scene with Kylo Ren, that it's like where she's like, I gave in. And it's like, it's not just that she saw lightning shoot from her fingertips that she knows that she gave in. She read in those tomes time and time again when Jedi have fallen and given into the dark side and what that means.
Right.
And then we see how she deals with it. And she doesn't let it break her. She's just like, I can't let that happen again. I can't let myself feel the way that I felt because it has consequences. Sometimes there's not another transport.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Sometimes Chewie's not on another transport. Oh man. Yeah, like the movie does a very gorgeous job of wrapping stuff up, having to hit some highlight reels on some stuff, things like that. I, for one, love Rose from Last Jedi, and I'm a little disappointed she didn't get more screen time. But who she is in the structure of that universe is still cool. Like it's not like she's gone, and and that sort of stuff. I real sad about C3PO losing his memory. And the moment it happened, I thought R2's going to back up through tears. Through tears, I said to myself, R2's going to back up, definitely.
Well, especially when he's like, R2 backs up your memory banks. I'm like, all right, so he's going to come back, but there's going to be some moments. And you know what that moment was? It was C3PO meeting Babu Frick.
Yep.
And Babu Frick is awesome. Again, I have spent zero time with the baby of Yoda's species. and yet I'm like, Babu Frick is fantastic. Just the way that he acts, and then that moment where he's like, C-3PO's like, Babu Frick, he's one of my oldest friends. And it's like, because your mind is like 12 hours old.
Yeah. So like it does that beautiful thing where it's tropey when it needs to be, like when it should be, but also groundbreaking when it should be as well. So like it is really good. It, like, as somebody that has had an on again off again relationship, I think, with J.J. Abrams, I think the Cloverfield line of films and products and whatever else has really kind of like really made me question some of the love he was getting. This brought me back around again in a way that I have to say he did a phenomenal job with this movie.
Right. And I guess talking about
this universe.
Yeah, the universe. And also talking about, like, he did MI3, so he does Mission Impossible 3, and then he walks away from that, and he sees what happens from there. He sees how Brad Bird approaches Ghost Protocol, and then how Chris McQuarrie approaches Rogue Nation. So, like, it also makes sense why he was okay with, like, I'm going to set this thing in motion, and then let Ryan do his story in Last Jedi, and Colin Trevorrow do what he wants to do in Rise of Skywalker. But then also, because he has all of this experience with, Lost and the Cloverfield thing.
Well, and being a showrunner on Lost, like walking away and letting other writers write middling episodes, not middling in terms of quality, but middling in terms of where they fall in the series.
Yes.
Like, right. Like he's used to that idea of having to kind of orchestrate and let other people do their thing. And it does sometimes get away from him in a way that I think is pretty obvious in all of these, right? Like, I think Cloverfield's another great example of it kind of getting away from him. But whenever he comes back in, the motherfucker, he anchors it. He pulls it back.
Yeah. So that's why I'd like to address something that I keep seeing. Because obviously, it seems like both of us liked Rise of Skywalker. So now it's time for a little bit of conjecture, and then we can like laud a little bit more praise to send people away. We'll do a compliment sandwich on this one. All of these people saying that it makes no sense, that it's a completely nonsensical film, it's not grounded in reality. Where do you think that's coming from in Rise of Skywalker? Because I don't get it.
People just wanting to be angry.
Okay.
Like there isn't a tangible thing in that film. There's not a specific moment or anything. But this is the same way that I felt in Last Jedi, man. Every time somebody said it makes no sense that Leia has these force powers that they've never come up before, and all I could think is the entire fucking running line from Yoda in Return of the Jedi is there is another. In all of my life, I have been convinced that obviously Leia has some power in the Force. So when it finally showed up in Last Jedi, that moment wasn't questionable to me. That moment was like a light bulb turning on. Like, finally, like, this thing has come to pass that I've always wanted in this series. And it's that same friggin' thing that I'm sensing now. All of these people that are like, it makes no sense this, it makes no sense that. And I'm like, are you kidding me? It's all I've ever wanted is for this and that. What are you talking about?
I mean, they're space wizards. They're space wizards in space.
Well, right.
Where are you getting from? Like, it makes no sense.
This isn't grounded in my sense of reality. Well, okay, change your sense of reality, because guess what, motherfucker? You didn't make it. Like, and I don't mean that like audiences have no authority over the things that they see. Yes. You see something that doesn't jive with what you consider to be the reality of a film, that's fine. And if that's how you feel about this, like, I got nothing for you. Like if it didn't make sense on that level for you, I don't know why. Plain and simple. Because like everything that happened in this movie fits into my understanding of that universe, and then some, and expands on it. Yeah.
Yeah, like that's the thing, is that like you can kind of do whatever you want in the Star Wars universe because it is the Star Wars universe. It's not our universe. They didn't impeach Palpatine. They threw him off a catwalk. Like, that's how it works in the Star Wars universe. So the fact that he somehow survived, Luke survived falling off Cloud City with one hand.
Right.
Like, what? It's not unbelievable that Palpatine could also live. And
nobody's dead
like,
in this universe until you see a Force ghost, like plain and simple.
Yeah, exactly. And I love the whole like setup where like he is on life support. He is basically a meat puppet. Yeah, Darth.
Everybody was so excited when everybody talks about how that's the only good part of that movie, but yet here you are bitching and moaning that fucking Palpatine survived.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I don't understand, like the disconnect to that. And I just was wondering, because we are these students of popular culture, we watch a lot and we identify these moments, and I wanted to see if there was a tangible moment from you where you're like, I could see how this goes the wrong way.
No, I mean like I think. No, man. I mean, there's really nothing, because we haven't talked at all about fucking Adam Driver and Kylo, and that's a shame.
We're going to. Don't worry.
Because like he also does some fucking phenomenal work in this movie, and like I like part of me wants to think like maybe his turn, but no, that's been going on for 3 movies. Like that's been so grounded. Like I have nothing, because I think honestly, I think the idea that Palpatine says to her, "I am your grandfather," and she doesn't suddenly have this like mind melting moment of like, who am I? What am I? She knows instantly who she is and what that means in that moment. And I think that upsets a lot of people. We're like, and take that and blow it up for the entire movie. Things would happen that in a much more progressive world that we now live in make much more sense than maybe they would have in the 80s when these movies were first coming out. There's some things that happen in this movie that you just kind of like now we get and we go with that we wouldn't have 20 years ago, 30 years ago. Maybe it's that, and that's me grasping at straws.
That's fine. I'm looking for straws, because I can't even see the straws for the disappointment in this film. Before the film came out, my friend Joe Copel, he does the Radical Retro Roundup. They're sporadically releasing, but I want to give him credit because he puts out a good show too. Listen to it if you can find it. He contacted me and said, the movie has been spoiled for me. I'm not going to ruin it for you, but I am looking forward to talking with you about what I found out about this film. So in the very back of my mind, I did have a little Devin Gremlin working out what could have thrown Joe off. And the only thing that was is that the name that she takes at the end is Skywalker. And the only reason that I could see that upsetting somebody is all of the marketing, everything said about this trilogy and this 9-movie saga is it will be the end of the Skywalker story. So then when at the end she becomes Rey Skywalker, it feels like, well, then it's not, right? Because she clearly now has a path that she's going to walk.
Yes, I will say this. I don't think we ever see Rey again, which sucks, because I love her as a character, and surprise me. Fucking surprise me, world. I want it. But I don't think we ever see Rey again. I think her adopting that name was a good
fully
ending
symbolic.
But also a really good ending to the Skywalker story. Like having somebody adopt that name and becoming that balance within themselves is the only way that I think you could end the Skywalker story.
Right. And I also think I take a moment from like what I took away from it, because there are 2 other movies that we don't really talk about in terms of the 9 movies, and that is Rogue One and that is Solo.
Yeah.
And there's a moment in Solo that means the world to me, and that is when he signs up to join the Imperial Army, and they're like, "What's your last name?" And he's like, I don't have a last name. I'm just Han, like Cher." And they're like, "Okay, so your last name is Solo." Like, that puts into perspective what's in a name in the Star Wars universe.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Like, Like,
does this movie also save save Solo and Rogue One?
I don't know if it saves Rogue One. I gotta like that movie. That's still a Rogue One is saved for me by something that happens in Fallen Order. I will say that.
Nice.
And without like, I don't want to. God, play Fallen Order. It's so good. There's a moment in Fallen Order where I'm like, I get it, I understand, but also, oh my God, Rogue One. I have problems with you. But yeah, like it takes that thing where it's like Han Solo is only Han Solo because some dude at a desk had to fill out a form, and they're like, it's required. There's an asterisk next to last name. This guy's alone. Solo. Next, I got quotas to fill. So it's like a name, like, so all of this importance of a name and what you come from, that was already flushed down the toilet for me when it's like Han isn't a member of the great Solo family from some far off planet.
Mandalorian deals in exactly this type of thing as well. The idea of a name and how a name means nothing. It's the name you adopt that means everything is a hugely important part of that world as well.
Right. And it also comes from like Kylo Ren becoming Kylo Ren as opposed to Ben Solo.
Any of the Sith, they all adopt names. Yeah.
Like, yeah. Like it's this whole thing. So like, it's cool, and it makes sense why this girl who's been alone her entire life, just because she finally found a familial connection in the entire universe, is not going to be like, well, that defines me now. Not the times when I was living in the desert riding broken ships for sleds and scavenging to survive.
No, I love it. I love her adopting the Skywalker name, not least of which because I've been saying it for 3 movies, and I'm glad I was right. But like, but the the only other thing I can think of that maybe that did kind of catch everybody in my audience off guard, and God, I have to say, I saw this with a fantastic audience. Everything about the night that I saw it was one for the history books. But like, everybody kind of lost their breath in the moment when she kisses Kylo, and guilty pleasure for me. I love that moment. I think it was perfectly, I think everything made sense, grounded, all that stuff. But there were definitely people in that audience with me that I could tell were not cool with that particular move. And I think it's a lot of people that wanted to see her with Finn or Poe or Finn and Poe. You know what I mean?
I'd be all right if they were in a relationship together as like a 3-person thing. I could see that happening, and it doesn't bother me.
They almost definitely are, but that's a whole other
that's a whole other discussion.
But her realizing how much she loves Ben and like really kind of how they've had this connection for, again, 3 movies that has been unbroken. As far as we know, since the first movie, they have been able to communicate with each other from long distances. So God knows what that relationship has been on another level, right? And so like that, even that moment worked for me. That's the only thing that I can think of that maybe somebody outside of myself might take issue with. But even then, I don't know anybody that would take that moment and blow it up to the entire film, because it really was so quick, and again, they don't dwell on it. He does a really good job of not dwelling on anything that might be too dangerous,
Right, exactly. Like, it's not, but there's also there's language that is used in this film that means like so much to me, and that's the fact where he's like, I offered you my hand and you wanted to take it. And like offering a hand, you think of marriage. It's not just as like a join me thing, because of who we are and because of the relationship we have. He was offering his hand for her to be his partner, and like in everything. Right. So like, and then her response where she's like, I did want to take it, but I wanted to take the hand of Ben Solo. I wanted to save you. I wanted to let you know that you could be yourself again, that your family still loves you and misses you and wants you back. So like, there is that also kind of gross Rose at the end of Titanic taking Jack's name of her taking Skywalker, because in her heart, much like in West Side Story, she is married to Ben Solo, which means that on some level she is a Skywalker now. I'm crying thinking about like just
and
that.
Like I said, like removed from that, thinking about it as like fucking uptight academic brain is just like, well, of course this has to be the love story, and of course this has to be the reason, right? But like, Star Wars fan me, like the burgeoning Star Wars fan that you were seeing in this very episode, like I again, tears, like thinking about that moment is just, it's beautiful.
Yeah,
Yeah.
It doesn't feel like it came from nowhere. I mean, I sent out as a tweet, as a joke, after I saw the first Last Jedi trailer, so Kyle Ren and Rey are gonna smash.
Yup.
And like, and the fact that they didn't smash, but they still had this moment that represented, like, physically how much they meant to one another.
Yeah, they metaphysically smashed. Yeah.
Was awesome. You know what I mean. Shut up.
No, I know exactly what you mean, man. Like I'm right there with you. Yeah, I mean, like there's maybe that, but other than that, man, I don't know. I can't make any excuses for these people that are being super shitty about this movie. Even if it's something you don't like, you have to step back and recognize that it is something that has been meaningful to a lot of people for a very long time. And when you're out publicly like bashing this movie, you are probably hurting somebody's feelings around you. So like, just I think about the fact that this movie meant something to somebody, and do that with all movies. Hell, do that with Cats. Like these movies mean something to somebody out there, you know, and that goes all around, man. When you're making movies, remember that you're making movies that are going to mean something to somebody. So don't be shitty.
That's
what
true.
goes around
Like, it
comes
means
around.
something to you, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to have that same representation for the person who consumes the art that you're creating. Like,
Yeah,
it's an important lesson, and it's one that is very well exemplified by release weekend 12/20/2019.
Yeah.
In a lot of ways. I'd like to talk about some of the outside of the movie Rise of Skywalker stuff, if you'll allow me that, if I can have the floor for that.
Yeah, what's 20 more minutes? Well, you can go for it.
I don't love that the comic books seem to imply and confirm that Jannah is Lando Calrissian's daughter. That felt a little bit weird. Like, I like the idea of Lando Calrissian and this former stormtrooper that they find, because we haven't talked about Finn's whole "I'm not the only one who walked away from the First Order" moment,
Yep.
which was very cool and a great storyline for him. But the comic books have all but confirmed that she is actually Lando's daughter. And I wish that, like, maybe a little bit of time, maybe not the comic book that released a day before the movie came out.
I mean, even then, that's a cop out in terms of like representation on the page. Like why couldn't she just be a different African American character in this universe that was awesome? You know, that old joke that fucking Lando's the only black person in the galaxy, and then you go and you make the third African American character that you've ever introduced related to him. That's gross.
Yeah, the biggest sin would have been if Finn was Lando's son.
And that was the fear for a long time. That was a fear for a lot of people that were worried about representation in these new movies. They were just like, yep, let's just wait. Let's hold our breath and find out. So like, it's kind of a kick in the nuts to that exact group as well. Like, not cool.
So that's like, oh, come on. You almost had it. Like, it's completely understandable that Lando Calrissian, based on everything that we've seen, including Solo, would like see someone lost and be like, well, let's find you a meaning in this world then.
Right.
Like,
I'm all for him adopting her as a daughter, like, in a sense, you know, becoming a father figure to her is one thing. Right. But to actually lay out that there's like blood between the two of them is unfortunate.
That Lando's daughter went missing. And now it's confirmed.
Say that I do also recognize Carl Weathers in Mando as technically the third African American character that's ever been introduced. So congratulations, Star Wars.
Are you freaking kidding me that Carl Weathers is a Mandalorian?
Are you kidding me? He's one of the main characters in the first 3 episodes.
I haven't seen any of them, but I didn't know that. Sherman, so my friend Sherman has started listening to the show, and she asked me how I liked The Mandalorian, and when I said I hadn't watched it yet, she's like, Sejan's going to be mad at you, and this is the moment. That moment just happened.
That exact moment. I'm not mad that you haven't watched it yet. I'm mad that you didn't even realize, like, why you should be watching it. Fucking Carl Weathers.
Really? I was waiting until all the episodes were available.
Werner Herzog.
I know all about Werner Herzog, but I wanted to watch it as a thing. After what we did with Doom Patrol, I wanted to take it in as a piece, not piecemeal. So that's it. But that's so funny because the amount of people who confuse Carl Weathers and Billy D. Williams, for them to bring him into the series, like, there's a little bit of me that's like, that's hilarious. That's like meta humor on your level, Devin Decker.
Man. there was probably a moment when he first showed up when I thought, is that Lando? And I like
that's what they wanted you to think.
You're not. Oh man. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Amy Sedaris has a fantastic episode. Oh,
Good. I'm excited to watch it. Like what? The 8th episode should be dropping soon, right? And that's it.
I believe they're gonna drop it for Christmas. No, I think they're doing 10. Now you got me questioning. I don't know.
All right. Well, I promise that I will watch The Mandalorian, especially after the high I'm on after Fallen Order and now Rise of Skywalker. Like this has been a good renaissance year for Star Wars in the life of Devin Decker. So I am excited to watch The Mandalorian, but I can't. After like getting to sit down and watch Doom Patrol like as one complete piece.
Yeah.
The dropping them weekly on streaming stuff just doesn't make sense to me. But,
okay, so there's only 8 confirmed episodes that I can find. So it's 8 episodes right now.
Yeah. So that's where we're at. And the other thing is that the Knights of Ren, they finally show up in Rise of Skywalker, and it was exciting to see his little group of people. But they released a comic book about Kylo Ren, and it's revealed that Ren is another word for lightsaber. And
what?
So basically the Knights of Ren are the Knights of the Lightsaber, and they just like worship Kylo Ren because he has one. It means that his adopted name is Kylo Lightsaber. Which like
Star Wars.
Don't
ever stop being Star Wars.
Exactly. Man. It's just that like you're gonna say like it makes no sense, Rise of Skywalker, and it's like you guys should maybe turn your eye to the extended universe and just the batshit stuff that they are coming up with.
Oh my
because
God.
Yeah, they're the Knights of Ren because and they can use the Force only in combat. That's the other thing. Like they couldn't like, oh, I want a drink. Oh, I got my drink now. But like if they're fighting somebody, oh, I can feel the Force now.
Oh God, I mean that's dumb. I mean it's kind of supported by like Han only really feels it when he flies, despite him being like I don't believe in the Force. He's definitely Force sensitive.
There's no way you do the Kessel Run in under 12 parsecs if you can't use the Force in some way, shape, or form.
Right. There's right like so there that's somewhat supported, like the idea that they might be Force sensitive, but like putting hard and fast rules out there on something that it's like when they introduced midichlorians. It's like don't put hard science onto my fantasy. Exactly. Yeah.
And then there's another thing about exactly what we were just talking about. Oh, people are having like a real issue with Finn being like, I feel the Force now. And it's like, yeah, it's okay. I'm okay with that.
Again, he was clearly Force sensitive.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Like I feel like Force sensitive is this word that you and I use all the time. And like I wonder if other people like just don't understand that like just because you live in Star Wars doesn't mean you're a Jedi if you have the Force or not.
I feel like Force sensitive is part of the lexicon. I don't think I came up with it. Let me put it that way.
Right. Dale thinks you did. So that's the only reason why I give me pause. Because you're
let's go to the internet on this one. I'm not going to sit here and be called a crazy person.
Definitely during the Gincident, were like...
I put in Force SE. The first thing that comes up as an autocomplete is Force sensitive. The second thing is Force sensitive Finn. The next thing is Force sensitive droids. Force sensitive Mandalorian. I'm clearly not the only person that uses this.
So that's good. I'm glad to know that it's out there.
Wikipedia has an entire fucking article on Force sensitive.
Because there are entire races that can't use the Force but are aware of its existence.
Oh, the first time the term is used is by Qui-Gon Jinn in the movie.
Yeah. That makes sense. Yeah. Qui-Gon Jinn also, by the way, believed to be one of the first Grey Jedi because of his like rebellion against the Jedi Council. Where he's no, I'm gonna train Anakin Skywalker. He's so powerful. You're not gonna
Well, I think there's an argument to be made for Yoda. I do think there's an argument to be made for Yoda who recognizes the need for Grey Jedi, but maybe isn't one himself. Maybe is the best way of putting it. But that's again,
he's kind of like Pope Benedict, where he's like, yeah, global warming is real.
Yeah, in a lot of ways. Oh man.
Yeah, to just and then, age too, because Yoda's what 600, 900 years old then. Who knows? But yeah, and the last outside thing is apparently J.J. Abrams confirming that what Finn wanted to deathbed confess to Rey is that he now is feeling the Force. I don't know how I feel about that one.
I mean, I will say that if you put in the context of Last Jedi and how he could never quite admit to her that he believed everything about what she was doing, and he was legitimately following her because he's into her. I think him admitting that is also saying to her, "I love you." If you take it in that, right? Yeah. This is me pulling shit out of J.J. Abrams' ass. But if you take it as him admitting to her that he now believes in the Force, is him also admitting to her in that moment that I love you, like, it makes total sense that that's the way that he would kind of put it. I think. I don't hate that. I mean, it means nothing to me because it's not real.
Right, that's true. I mean? You're not wrong. It's just one of those moments where, like, I can't believe in the same weekend that you had an on-record account of J.J. Abrams being like, oh no, I'll tell you exactly what he was about to say.
Yeah.
I believe in the Force.
Well, it's one of those things that, like, and this part of this is my privilege as a theater, like, person. Like, I know that sometimes the actor has a different thought in their head than the director has a different thought in their head than the assistant director. You know what I mean? Like what the scene should be is kind of agreed upon in the moment, but it's never anything that's ever solidified, right? Like, I once directed a scene with Alan, like, God love him, one of the greatest directors I've ever worked with, but I had the fucking balls to apparently one day say, I think it might be this, when he wasn't in the room. Like, and I said that to an actor, and then, like, for the rest of that run, they were like, I kind of have to agree with you. And I was like, that's fine. Agree with whoever you feel you need to agree with. I'm not going to say one of us is right or one of us is wrong, right? And it's that idea that, like, it doesn't matter to me that as the director he felt that's what it should say in the moment. What matters to me is what it read to me as, what came across to me as somebody that is imposing my own bias on it, right? And so, like, I'm convinced that what he wanted to say to her was, I love you, like, blanket. Just, yeah. I love you. Like, you know what I mean? Like, anything more than that is just him masking his way of saying I love you.
Right. And I like that. Also, at this moment, I'd like to admit that I never went to school for directing. I directed nothing while in theater school, but Joe Short as Ray Cohn in that opening scene of Angels in America, that was all me. Because we worked together for 4 hours.
Yeah, well, Rhino Wortman probably had some personal feelings about that scene that weren't going to make it through to anybody. So I think you're fine.
Yeah, no, it was just like, it's one of those things where, like, I totally get it, because he's like, I need someone to work through this with me, because I have no connection to this character.
Right. And people do that shit all the time where they're just like, I run these lines with me. What do you think this line should read like? Like, that just happens, right? Yeah. So anybody out there that thinks that the director's vision is the only vision has a very limited view on how movies are made.
And that's an important thing. And it goes to the whole, everybody is appreciating and accepting things in their own personal way. That's why opinions should be respected. But also remind yourself that it is just an opinion. It doesn't necessarily have to be an attack on you. And
the fuckheads.
No, but I wanted to talk about everybody being upset that Han Solo shows up, but not as a Force ghost. What? He's a memory. He even says you're just a memory.
No, I didn't mind him not being a Force ghost. I also think that Han wouldn't have fucking dared show up as a Force ghost.
No,
like,
of course.
Through his own fucking stubbornness, he comes back in all of his form.
Yeah. I've never wielded the Force, but I'm going to show up as
in all honesty, that would have raised more questions for me. If he showed up as a Force ghost, I would have had a lot more questions.
Again, there's 2 hours that we can't release in which you say, if Han ever shows up as a Force ghost, that's my line. That's my line. And because it's true. It's like, but he's like, you're just a memory. You can't make me feel better. And it's like, no, it can. Memories can make you feel better because your father loved you. And that's why that whole dad, I know, like, broke me in that moment. As, like, a callback to Empire and this, like, I don't know if Han Solo ever told Kylo Ren that he loved him.
Right.
Just like, I don't know if he ever told Leia that he loved her. And which it's okay if Finn never was going to say, I love you to Rey, but that I believe in the Force. I feel the Force.
Yeah, there's almost like there's some pretty solid filmmaking going on in these last few films.
Yeah. That's, I don't know. Anything else about this? I think I've touched on.
Go see it.
Yes.
Even if you listen to this without, like, even if you didn't see it, listen to this and now you feel like things are spoiled for you, fuck it, just go see it. Like, one of the things that I said opening night, doesn't matter how you come out of that movie feeling. The thing is, at the end of the day, everybody's going to have an episode 9 story. And that's still true, even if you haven't seen it yet. You're going to be able to talk to people 20 years from now about the first time that you saw episode 9. Because guess what? People don't shut up about Star Wars, and they're never going to.
Your story can be, I couldn't see it on opening night because, and then by the time I saw it, I had listened to 3 hours of this podcast from these two guys who went to college together.
Yeah.
They did a quiz with some Australian who I thought was British.
How many kids do you know nowadays that were nowhere near alive in the 80s? Kids that were born in 2000, 2001 that can now bitch and moan about the first time that they saw episode 7 and what they felt about Luke in that movie. People have opinions on Star Wars, and they're always going to have opinions on Star Wars. So do yourself a favor and just get in on the conversation.
I'm related to somebody who said to me, this is my trilogy. The same way that people say, Peter Capaldi is my doctor. Matt Smith is my doctor. Dale took ownership over Force Awakens, Last Jedi, and Rise of Skywalker as what she will consider her trilogy of Star Wars films. And I'm just like, of course it is. Because you were, 5 years old when Phantom Menace came out? Like, that wasn't touching you the way that seeing Force Awakens touched you, or meant something to you, and that's cool.
It's cool.
It is, and that at the end of the day, it's just freaking cool. And we didn't ruin my favorite thing, but I do want to say this: it is a shame that we don't see more of Rose, but it also speaks to the fact that she's like, no, I have work that I have to do. I don't get to be like the freaking Noctis party and go out and follow our whims.
Yeah.
I have stuff to do on this planet.
Well, and for anybody that was feeling like me, I should point out there's a very good extended universe novella. It's a YA novella, so be ready for the fact that it's not deep writing or anything like that. But that being said, it's very good about her and her sister. So it leads right up to the final moment in the beginning of Last Jedi.
Oh, that's awesome. I'd like to look into that. Plus, there's going to be novels. There's going to be a novelization of Rise of Skywalker. I can't imagine they're going to stop that now. Nope. And, Last Jedi's novelization fills in the fact that, Rey and Kylo are a duologue, a dyad of the Force. And that's where she gets some of her understanding of the Force without having used it before, is the fact that she is mentally connected to somebody who has an understanding of it.
In training. Yeah. It's just unfortunately it's Sith training, so it's right. Yeah. Man.
So if you're confused about something, and also there was another transport. Was I the only one who saw both transports in the desert?
I think that you're not the only person that saw it, and not everybody registers a detail like that when the movie, again, this is actually speaks to the filmmaking. It is purposely shot, filmed, and everything. It is even fucking scored in a way to make you think, holy shit, she just killed Chewie. It builds that moment. So no, you're not the only person that saw that, but the film goes out of its way to basically fuck with you in that moment in great ways, in ways that movies should, because it doesn't let you sit in that for very long.
Right. And to the fact that the guy sitting behind me in the theater said, if she killed Chewie, there's no redeeming her. And I'm just like, oh, damn.
Right.
You could blame Kylo just as much as you blame her, guy who said that Rey is irredeemable right now. Yeah. There's still an hour of movie left.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think I've said almost everything that I have to say. I'll keep some things secret because, we got to talk. We have to do this again next week. Not about Star Wars. We'll probably talk about other things. But anything that you'd like to add before we...
No, everybody just have a good holiday. This is a super packed episode, but I think it was all stuff that was good to talk about. And like I said, enjoy whatever movie you want this holiday. Make it something new, make it something old. Just go out and see something, and just kind of
enjoy yourself for a couple of hours.
Yeah, we talked a lot about a movie says what it says to you. That's Die Hard right there. If you want to view Die Hard as a Christmas movie, it can be. I don't care that Bruce Willis doesn't think it's a Christmas movie. If you think it does, your opinion is the one that matters. So
There's a lot of things Bruce Willis thinks I disagree with, so we're good.
I know, that Bruno album. Swinging on a star. But yeah, so enjoy it. Big thank you to Will for being our quizmaster, for writing up a wonderful, like, authentic British pub quiz that we had fun. I have all the questions here. I want to ask you one to see if you remember the answer.
Give it a shot.
All right. What two Christmas movies is Tim Allen in with Christmas in the title?
So it was Christmas with the Cranks and then El Camino Christmas, the Netflix original.
There you go.
See?
What Christmas movie was Robert De Niro in?
Oh, are we doing this some more of? Okay. Wasn't it a weird one in like the fucking 80s that like neither of us had ever heard of?
1985's Brazil.
Brazil. Not that we hadn't heard of it. It is not in any fucking way a Christmas movie. But that's.
But again, that's Siegen's opinion. So if you're watching Brazil to celebrate Christmas,
Merry
all
Christmas,
power
I
to...
guess.
May the force be with you. All right, so if you want to yell at me about my feelings and thoughts and opinions on Star Wars, you can always find me on Twitter at Devin D. Decker.
And if you want to explain to me how the fuck Brazil is a friggin' Christmas movie, you can find me at Siege versus the World.
All right, so until next time, have a Merry Christmas, a Happy Hanukkah, a Happy Yule. Enjoy everything, and we'll see you next time. Much love, everybody. Peace.
Thank you for listening to the Say Report with your host Devin Decker and Stephen Serwick. Please follow the guys on Twitter and Facebook by searching for The Say Report, and you can always subscribe on your podcast channel so this is delivered straight to you and you can enjoy it every week. With apologies to your mother, we'll see you next time.